Okay, are we all here? We are. Are you ready, Callie? All right. All right, then I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. It's Tuesday, October 5th, 2021, 5 p.m. And I would ask Callie to note roll call. Okay. There are no announcements. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 9/21/20.
So moved.
We have a motion by Rebecca. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Simpson. Any discussion, edits, or corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, items for discussion. We're going to start with the emergency management plan. Chief Olson.
No, it should be good. All right, good evening. So included in a updated packet that came out yesterday was some information that I shared from Dane County. They are updating their hazard mitigation plan for the county. And the reason it becomes important for us is if an event was to occur, in order to even be eligible to apply for any kind of grant funding or assistance, we would have to be a part of the updated plan. So this is things that have previously occurred inside the village. Marker Offers has assisted the village in the past with this and had all the documents for it. So he's helping us with updating the plan. Him and an associate, Nick Johnson, is helping us with updating the plan. So I wanted just to bring it to your attention in case you see disbursements in the check register, things of that nature. That's what it's related to. But also then you were shared with a survey that's going to hopefully be published tomorrow. The survey is to gather input from the community about any kind of natural disaster they've experienced or been a part of, witnessed, been impacted by. We met as an emergency preparedness commission within the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Went through the survey. It's purposely designed to be vague so people can add their own information. It's designed that way so that people don't guess, speculate. I heard from a friend who heard from a friend who heard from a friend, kind of a details, but it's really about those who have been impacted and how they've been impacted. So if you've reviewed the survey questions, they are pretty vague. They're pretty straightforward. I tested it for Nick in the Survey Monkey that he's created already. It flows real easy. It takes you about 4 or 5 minutes just to enter the data. From there, he will update with any citizen feedback we got and be ready to submit it to Dane County. So the process should be in his timetable through and completed by the end of the year. Unless anyone has objection, I plan to work with Stacy tomorrow to try to get that information posted to the website and Facebook so the community can start to enter any information they feel relevant for us to know.
Good. Abby?
Thanks, Chief. Just wondering if there's a electronic version of the survey, like if for people to submit online.
So it will be in multiple formats, multiple different ways you can do it. There's a QR code. Also, people can scan and do it right on their phone. So that's all part of the release. I just sent you the questions in a PDF just for simplicity. If not, it does go through a Survey Monkey instrument, so it's easily analyzed.
Any other questions?
So I just need to make sure nobody's going to object to us using the survey for this use.
Jim, was that a hand up?
We're all good with thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I know.
All right.
Tasidra loves thumbs up, so we're good.
All right. Thank you, Chief. The Forest Street redesign, Judd.
Yes, so in the packet, you should have, I believe, had some of this information. Trying to bring up the rendering here and share the screen. Unfortunately, I did not get a OPC until just a little bit ago. So I will go through this concept with y'all and questions. Yep. So this is the Forest Street right outside, right here, right where the farmer's market is happening now. We had brought forward a concept plan previously. The board was not real keen on it, and I don't think staff was either. So we'd asked Blake to kind of go back to the drawing board, so to speak. Then we had our Parks Ad Hoc Committee meeting a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and had solicited some feedback from them as well. So this is what we've come up with is, so down here, which would be the westerly end of DeForest Street, that road would probably remain intact. Mostly would soften it up some, with some, maybe a big checkerboard or something, but you could still park vehicles here. You could do some farmer's market type stuff. There's a sidewalk that exits right out here that would continue across this way to kind of border this. This would be just a grassy area, nice little area for people to congregate. You could have smaller musicians perform here with some sort of a stage or maybe even some sort of a architectural feature here. Again, the sidewalk here. Then this would be grass as well. The rest of DeForest Street, the easterly half, but it would be a geogrid mat underneath. So the grass will grow through. You can mow it, but you can also drive vehicles on it, and it's very stable. And so we could continue to have the farmer's market here and here. We would take that curb out. There's some inlets here that we would put some field drains in to handle that. But then this looks like one more continuous extension of the park all along here for the most part, right? We would have some, when we were down at the National Recreation Park Association, they've got a lot of really cool things. They've got outdoor ping pong tables, outdoor cement, cornhole or beanbag games. They also have tables that can be set up that have chessboards or checkerboards right in them, so people could sit down and play games in the park. So we would be looking to include some of those features in this space here, that what would have been the terrace before between the trail on that side and the road. It'll all be grass now. And so we're hoping that part of the CIP is to do this next year, as well as the pickleball courts. And so if the board is amenable to this, so the OPC is about $270,000. He's erred a little bit on the high side, he thinks. There's some costs in there that we think we can probably take out, including like removal of the road. We probably have a vendor who would come and do that for free, so they could use that asphalt again. And then dirt is in abundance right now. So the cost for dirt is basically free. We just have to truck it. So that cost may come down. So we're hoping that 270 will come down more in line. I think we have 250 set aside previously for the DeForest Street redesign. So it's within our budgetary frames. So what we're looking for is some sort of an indicator from y'all, whether it be thumbs or other agreement, nodding of heads, that we could go forward. Typically with park projects, we like to get the bids out late in the year, so the bid process is done for the start of the next year, to facilitate getting the best pricing possible. So by doing this and the pickleball courts at the same time, we're likely to get somebody who can bid for both of those things, and it'll help lessen the costs on each side of that.
Okay, great. Rebecca?
Yeah, just a quick question related to like the things for like the throwing and the ping pong and stuff like that. Is that going to be something where people bring their own stuff, or is that something where they're going to be checking things out? It's like a rental type thing. I'm just trying to think of the logistics, because I don't particularly like the idea of just leaving stuff out for people, because it'll disappear for one thing, but and then, if they don't bring it back, then maybe having some kind of a way of holding them responsible for it.
So we could have some sort of a checkout. However, Village Hall isn't open 24/7, right? The other, I think Reese had talked about, I think Monona has, like, they have some ping pong tables out and they just have it built into their budget, the cost for additional paddles and balls that will walk off. And so those are things. So either people can bring their own, if that's however we want, you know, you want to move forward with it. If you don't like the idea at all, great, right? Like those chess sets, when we were looking at those, are these things included? He's like, no, we get these at, I think you bought them on Amazon or maybe Walmart. They're like $11 for just the chess pieces. So they're not super expensive. But again, it's certainly something that can walk off that will be a cost that we might have to incur to facilitate them. Ideally, people would, but that's not, you know, we all know where we really live in the world. So
I think that just needs to be thought through really carefully.
We did have pretty good luck though, when we were checking out bird watching equipment and there was other stuff that people check out.
We have games, Reese has games that she rents out. So we could do the same policy where they come here and rent them out for the weekend or however, they work that out. So I'm sure there's ways of doing things like that.
And they leave their firstborn child, or do we just get name, address and put it on? I mean,
Yeah, it could be a deposit or something
Okay.
like that.
Colleen?
Jed, maybe you said something about it. I wasn't hearing you real well when you first started talking. The checkerboard thing?
yep.
What's that?
Well, he's got it depicted here having like a checkerboard, so you could do big checkers or
Oh.
human chess or something, but just something that would add to the, so it's just not a pavement, right? So it looks a little bit more parkish.
Okay.
Would be doing something to add in that area.
Okay, Jim?
I don't. I personally don't like big checkers because. I personally don't like the big checkers myself because I think those would be more expensive and more apt to be stolen for the fun of it or whatever. But an idea that I had is I remember Elaine Erickson pitching those different labyrinths. You could do paving stones in a labyrinth shape or something. I personally like the checkers, say like on a table, but
Mm.
not at that scale.
Okay, good idea. Tashidra?
Conceptually, I like it all. I think the more we do for the residents to be able to get out and engage and have more time together is great. I would just hope we look for things that reduce the workload on people and the amount of extra effort. You know, I just, with the way things are now and everything that's happening with this TikTok, let's steal as much as we can and destroy things. I don't want what is meant to be a great idea to turn into a headache. But I think conceptually it looks great. I think it gives the community members more things to do in Fireman's Park and it's bringing more people together. So I like the overall idea.
Bill?
Yeah, do you ever think about moving the farmer's market over to the parking lot? And then you wouldn't have to worry about, you know, geotextile is nice, but you get a rainy day and in the summer and trucks start spinning wheels and then you got ruts and stuff like that. Is it that?
It's like a picture of a cupcake tin, if you will, right? And the sod is in there, so it stays green, but it's tightly together, right? So it's not like spaced out like cupcakes. So the grass grows through but it provides a solid base to drive on. So if we remove the pavement, we then have a good solid pad already. We just put the dirt on and then those geotextile mats and the grass grows through, provides a really strong base. They've got them, currently have done them in Monona for access through one of their parks to get back to a stormwater basin or sewer or something that they had to get to. So they can drive heavy trucks on this stuff and it's not, you know, even if it's super wet, it's going to hold up.
Oh, okay. I'd rather see it all in grass and maybe an additional open air pavilion of some kind.
Okay.
Pretty sunny. I think we need some more park shelters.
That reminds me, this old shelter that's there, In the bid, he has that going away. We would find a way for our staff to remove that shelter potentially and relocate it somewhere else, but put in a different structure here, including the cement work that have to do. That cement there that's down is pretty cracked and uneven. And so we'd want to clean that up as well. So for the $270,000, I think we're getting a lot of bang for the dollar and really finishing this westerly portion of Fireman's Park.
Good. You had your hand up? No, okay. Colleen?
I guess I forgot to mention the part that I do like it. I was not crazy about the checkerboard, but that's okay. I think it's really nice to have it so green and someplace you can grab a coffee and sit down with a friend, and it's nice.
Abby?
Yeah, I like it too. And as part of the discussions with the ad hoc Parks Committee, and I think with this design, I don't know if it'd be later and it depend on if we wanted to do it, but it could also be like an art piece could be located there. And we discussed that to kind of, because we talked about how it's kind of already like a cultural community feel to that part of the park. So our piece would fit in pretty well, or a water fountain or something like that. And then a question I have about the different like recreational activities, like the chessboard or ping pong or any other similar things. Are those only two options? Either we leave them out and just risk that they might get taken or stolen or misplaced, or a checkout system? I don't know. I didn't know if there were any other options, because I feel kind of conflicted between the two.
Certainly, I don't know of any other options. One idea that I had that I don't have the time to do, but if somebody wants to do it, they can create a red box for recreation equipment and people could go and check it out and dump it back in. It's a free idea. Somebody can run with it, but I don't have that. That would be the only other thing that I thought of if there was some sort of a red box type thing for checking out equipment.
Okay. Rebecca?
Yeah, just one other question related to like the ping pong table or whatever. Would those be like permanent structures? What type of a structure would it be?
They're made of cement. They're pretty solid
Thank you.
structures.
So nobody can take off with that either.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Good
So
point.
we certainly can look into, and not to, we will find other ways or look for other alternatives to do the equipment checkout. If it's there, you know, I don't know if the paddles just are attached on a long chain like at a bank, but it's got to be longer if somebody's really getting into it. So we'll certainly look to find other alternatives that we might be able to do that with.
Okay. So are people a thumbs up on moving forward with this plan? All right.
Once we get it finalized and everything else, I'm sure we'll be bringing it back to you, and it's part of the CIP, but we can start that. Send Blake on his way to get this stuff done, so we can get out for bid. Thanks.
Great, thank you. We're gonna go through some of our other items, and then if we have time, come back to the budget, because it's also on the village board meeting agenda as well. So Steve, do you have a finance update you want to do?
5.3.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the trifocals, guys. You gotta just, it is a problem if it's not in the right area.
I'm going,
Let's do 5.3, Old Indian Trail Stormwater Conveyance.
it's terrible getting old, isn't it? We all have that.
I just thought, sorry.
There's nothing, oh, sorry, Steve. All right, so there was some stuff in your packet as well for this. I'm hoping this maybe makes it a little easier than some of the drawings that we had. So just to kind of get your bearings on this, here's Old Indian Trail, here's North Lexington Parkway, Terra Court. There's these 6, 7 houses that are here that we have a stormwater easement to convey that water. It's pretty steep up here, and this all flows down this way. So when this was developed, we had a stormwater plan that was done to convey that water in the years subsequently, a lot of these homes have done some work in their backyards and terraced it. One house, I believe it's this one, called Greg and said, "Hey, I'm doing this work. Can you come and tell me if this is okay?" And then Greg's looking at it. There was a berm there. He said, "You need to put that berm back because otherwise all that water will just run right down into this house and this house." Which then led to a broader discussion that, well, this house is in compliance or this one isn't. So how do we handle these? So there's a couple ways we can go forward with it. Either we can ask each homeowner to do the work themselves. We might want to have Veerbecker stake it out to say, here's where the bottom should be and here's what should be removed. But it may be easier if we just do the work so we know it's done right and then bill it back to each of those individual homeowners. Might even be less expensive for them in the long run than them each having to individually contract with somebody to do that work.
I see hands. Rebecca?
Yeah, I just want to make sure now, first off, the homeowners, they knew they were responsible for this area, for maintaining this, correct? It says here, over time, the swale has been filled and the resident of each property is to maintain the swale and keep the flow of water from exiting the berm to the north. So
I would think
Is
they would
that
know that. It
in-
would have been part of their, when they're purchasing the property.
okay, so technically they should be aware of that. So I would, and we are going to give that cost back to them in some way, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Some of them has filled in with dirt, but others have just been moved because they put in retaining walls, right? And so if
Right.
we walk back through there and there's terraces that people built with big stone retaining walls that are there, which has affected the flow of water. There's fence lines and other things that are
Yeah.
redirecting the water.
I do like the idea of us doing it, making sure it's done properly and then spreading that cost out amongst those homeowners. I think it will in the long run be a lot cheaper for them.
Tashidra?
Yes. I like theoretically the idea of us doing it and then charging it back to them. But I would hope that they get the option to fix the issue themselves. Most people like their autonomy. So if you do something like we did it and you need to pay, I see that becoming more of a, more of an issue. I mean, if I was a homeowner, I'd like to know that I have something to fix and have the option to, with the caveat of, it could be less expensive if the village does it for you, but you will be billed type thing. Just because we want to create I'm being very careful with my words. We want to create the precedence that you're a homeowner, you have responsibilities, and we want you to take that responsibility. And if you need help, that's what the village is here for. We're not here to solve everybody's problems for them or whatever the case may be. I don't want to sound mean, but if every homeowner in the village of DeForest decides to say, hey, we want the village to take care of for us, just bill us. I see you guys' workload going up exponentially. So I think they should be responsible for it, but just that communication, that collaboration, this is a situation, because they may not have known about it. A lot of people are buying property and don't know what they're stuck with. We've had a lot of people come before us with that exact same problem. So it might just be ignorance of, I didn't even know, and I would like to rectify this because this is my village and I want to be an active participant.
If you go with that method, though, they have to know that it has to be done to the specifications and design of the village. Yeah. Jim?
As a little bit of what I was going to add. So the question that I have, or what I'm sort of assuming that you can verify or not, this subdivision is a decently new subdivision. So generally in that period, they had those drainage plans and they even had notes on the subdivision saying that you had to adhere to those drainage and not change your property line elevations and everything. So to me, assuming that, and I'm guessing that's correct, that everybody should have known, or they could have easily read it in the subdivision, and they don't really have a reason to say that they didn't know, because that would have been a 2-minute read when they bought the house. But the bigger question I have is right now, to me, it's going as a shallow flow or a sheet flow coming down the hill right now, which generally isn't that big of an issue. And if we're creating a channel, we're channelizing it. And I just want to make sure wherever it's coming out, that it's not coming right at a duplex, because it, to me, sort of looked like it was.
So.
Is there an easement that it's going down?
Yes, so this house here, there's a culvert that's there, so that's channelizing a lot of water and then it gets to here and will disperse at this point. As this flows down, this water is then keeps flowing down this way through this, there's an easement all the way through here, down to there's a drain tile there. What's that? A field inlet here that water goes to. So it's not going right into somebody's home. It does convey down through here. But this is the area that's had a lot of changes and variances to it through the years.
So I guess to add to my point, if we give the property owners an option, I think it's maybe good timing right now. That if we say, okay, we got this plan, but I would say that they need to have their contractor on board by a certain date and in telling us that it's going to happen or it's going to happen on our schedule, whenever that is, say April or something. I'd rather not give them too much, a little bit harder line than maybe what you're proposing, but I think it's good.
Thank you, Jim. Bill?
What would it cost if we came in and did it?
I haven't given an estimate yet.
We don't have an estimate for that. We haven't gotten that far yet.
You said some people are in compliance.
Yeah. The further down here is you get there's more, and there's not been a lot of change, but it's some of these others that have had change.
So somebody that's in compliance would get hit with us coming through their backyard and or would it be a case by case basis?
So it'd be, we would, as we did this work, and Al can correct me if I'm misstating this somehow, but we would apply it based upon whatever their land is that's in that, right? So let's just, for simple math, it's $10,000 and each one of these is, there's only 5 parcels, each one would get charged $20,000. If one of the parcels was fine, that 100,000 is now 80,000, so each one's getting charged at 20, and that one who's in compliance is not getting charged anything.
So you're saying out of the 5 lots, if 2 are in compliance, they wouldn't get charged anything?
I would think if there's no work that needs to be done on their property, then they would not have a cost incurred. Al, can you?
Well, the board has some discretion in terms of allocating the costs for improvements that benefit particular properties. I think the outline that Judd is suggesting, where if people have not made changes, that they wouldn't be charged for repairs on their lot that aren't being made. I think that's a reasonable way to do that. But there is some flexibility. If you wanted to adjust that, you'd have some discretion.
Okay.
So the highlighted areas are the areas that we would do the work. So it'd be those 7 houses.
Okay. Abby?
If it ended up that the village did the work and build the property owners that aren't in compliance, would, I guess the property owners that maybe did more modification within that easement area, would they perhaps pay a bit more than, property owners that may be only slightly out of compliance? Is there going to be that kind of differentiation?
We could possibly get a quote for each individual property and then go from there. That might be the easiest because some are gonna be easier than others.
Yeah.
The one that we have to rebuild the berm is gonna cost a little bit more money. It's gonna take a little more time. Whereas once you get down further, it's not quite as much work. That's something we could do.
Yeah, it's hard to really answer that without knowing what the specifics are on each lot. But for example, if somebody brought in huge boulders that had to be removed from their lot, the removal of those boulders could probably be separated out to charge only that lot for those. If you're talking about somebody coming in with a grader to regrade the swale, it's not going to matter much whether they have to grade 6 inches off one lot and 12 inches off another lot. They're basically running the thing back and forth a few times. So I think there are ways that you can probably break down the costs for particular assignment to a property. If you have to bring in dirt because somebody dug out a berm and moved all the dirt off the property, well, that property is the only one that needs that dirt. So it all depends on what kind of information you can get out of the contractor and exactly how they're going to do it. But yeah, certainly if you can more closely allocate the cost to each parcel based on what it actually costs the village to fix the problem on their lot, that's the best way to do it.
Okay,
We certainly will notify the residents, right? It's not like we're just gonna spring this on them. They've got, I don't think this will happen till next year, so they'll have time to be prepared for it and come up with a plan. We certainly can reach out to them if it's the board's desire that we go to them first and let them see if they want to remediate it on their own. If so, we'd ask that the board give us permission to have Beerbecker go out and at least stake the center line so they know where it is, because I can share that. This is not going to help most people.
No.
Or the other one that I included in the packet. But if you're technical in nature, that may make some sense, but they could certainly hand this to whoever they're doing the work and saying this is what needs to happen. But if we at least take that first step and stake it, they should be able to work within the parameters.
well, and to let them know that the purpose of the swale was there and it's an easement that they've moved into. Yeah. Bill?
Yeah, I see no problem with doing this. It's getting the center line, like you said, and getting an estimate of what it might cost. You're talking $50,000, that's gonna be a shock to some of these people versus 5,000. So, I just don't want to see Jason Kramer's backyard fence type thing again, remove your, that was a kind of a hot thing, so.
So we can certainly ask Beerbecker for like an OPC on that. And so we'll have an idea and we can share that with the homeowners and say, here's what generally the cost would be for each homeowner if we did the work, if you would like us to do it. Versus if they want to hire themselves, somebody else to do it for them, or if they're handy enough to do it themselves, whatever.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Jim?
I was just gonna say, I moved quite a bit of dirt in my backyard and poured concrete and everything too, and that was on less than 20,000, so I don't expect this to be that much. I would even guess it to be closer to 10 because they're just moving dirt. But the other comment I really was wanting to say, when you have them stake it, I would make sure that they put elevations on it too. So if a property owner does want to do it themselves, they could measure down and hand dig it if they really wanted to.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay.
One thing too is all of them have to do the work, not just one. Because if you only have one do it and the rest don't do it, it's not gonna do any good. Water would just back up and create other issues. So they'll all have to be on board.
Yeah, and we have to put timeframes for when they would have to do it. Otherwise, the village will do it and bill them. So, Al?
And one other suggestion I'd make is if you're gonna let people do it, that you'll let them know up front that if it's not done right, the village is still gonna come in and do it to make it right.
Yep. Good point. Okay. Do you have what you need?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Now I'm going to read this properly. We have 5.4 was the budget, and Steve and I talked about moving that down and going through the other items first. Do you have a finance update?
Yes,
You're on.
a couple things. So we do have a couple of candidates interested in the finance director position. We hope to interview them in short order here, kind of a wide variety of backgrounds. But could meet our needs. So that's promising. The other is in front of you, a couple documents, the audit report, and then a big packet of information from the audit firm Baker Tilly. So they were here in June, I believe, sharing a rough draft version. So the actual numbers throughout the report have not changed, except for the CDA information, which is new. That audit happened over the last few months and came together. The CDA has its own audit, but that information is brought in as a component unit as part of the village's financials because the village appoints the board members and has some sort of fiscal authority over that. So that is added in form of numbers and footnotes and things like that. If you have questions, you can always reach out to Baker Tilly or myself. You can start with me if there's anything in there. A lot of good information if you're into that type of thing. Different funds that we use and that can help out with the budget discussion too at some point, but the things that we do and how we account for them. It's in front of you. I didn't think we needed to have them back to go through it again.
Okay. Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question related to the kind of the timeline of getting this budget approved, edited, whatever. What is our timeline for trying to get this passed? Because I mean, it's going to take a little while to muddle through this.
Those are audit reports. It has nothing to do with the budget.
Finance statements and that's part of the audit?
Yeah.
That's the audit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So.
No, the budget's not that fancy yet.
I was
Or
gonna
will it be?
say- I was gonna say,
No.
thank you.
Yeah, we do our budget to figure out how to spend money and collect money, not to make it pretty. Yeah, no. Nope. That's at your leisure, if you're interested.
And I'd also note, Rebecca, on the memo that was in both packets, there's a bit of a timeline on there. Okay. All right. Anything else, Steve?
No.
Okay. Police Department update, Chief?
Several weeks ago, I came before you and asked to overfill a position. I can tell you now that Officer Jacqueline Summers has been officially deployed. She came in last Friday and presented her military orders that extend through October 31st, 2024. So she is basically coming off the payroll. I think today was the last day of military leave she had. And then a new officer will replace her in several weeks. So it's no increase in staffing per se. It's one is off the payroll completely and the other one is coming on. So just update you on that. Thanks.
Okay. Public service update, Chad?
Next week, we'll start with leaf pickup. You may have seen the vehicle out and about doing some practice runs. The guys getting their training in on it. But we're excited for that. There's been a lot of excitement. We'll have it out this weekend again at the public safety event the fire department's putting on that we're working in conjunction with the police department. We'll have our information out there from 10 to 2 on Saturday for people who want to come and ask us questions and kids want to jump in the dump truck or the front end loader, honk the horns and do all that stuff. Next committee of the whole will probably be coming to you asking for approval to go for some LRIP funds, which is funding for road aids from the state of Wisconsin. We're just getting into that. That's coming due in November, but we're on that, Greg and I, and we'll be bringing that forward for your support, probably next board meeting.
Okay. Great. I'll have to get Jonathan to take some portrait pictures of the leaf truck. Bill?
I just wonder, as part of the trash future contract, are we gonna go inspect the people's equipment? Because that seems to be an issue with waste management. You know, say if there's 2 people bidding and somebody go out and look at their equipment.
So the bids will come back. They're due this Friday. We'll review them at that point. It's in the bids that they have to have vehicles that are in good working condition. And it's part of the contract that we would work out with them for whomever the board look at and the board selects to go inspect them in advance. I don't know that we would necessarily do that, but it's certainly something to consider.
Thanks.
Other questions for Judd? Okay. Moving along, community development update, Michelle.
I do have one. I have a couple actually. Wanted to make note of getting a couple of questions and emails from you all and other people about the announcement by Dane County of the 1.2 million among other projects that were allocated for a project in DeForest and the Bear Tree Farms West presented concept. It's MWF is the company's name, the developer. They are out of Minnesota. They presented a concept plan at P&Z in August. I think many of you had seen short concept plan. Most of the questions that I got were, does that mean they're approved? They're through the process. And that does not mean that they're going to be applying for lots of different funding mechanisms just to kind of stack their funding. This is not in a TID, so they are not asking for any kind of municipal funding. They will be going, as the article that Jonathan wrote said, they will be going for state tax credits as well. So it will be going through the process just as regular. I think the next step is the site plan, and they hope to do the end of November for site plan. I think that's and Matt Yetzar is their representative. He will actually be on the village board meeting tonight. He's been kind of hanging out, listening to the Bear Tree Farms concept presentation. So he will be there. Just so everybody knows the anticipated rents, they presented this at P&Z, but the anticipated rents will be from $530 to $1,300 a month. And that's going to be dependent. There's 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, and that's going to be dependent on the size, but also dependent on the person's income level. So that's just a little bit of the information there. I wanted to have, and you can ask any questions or we can talk to Matt afterward if you'd like to do that. And if you have any questions about this. So just wanted to approach that, and then wanted to let you know that among many things, October is manufacturing month. It's Cancer Awareness Month and quite a few things, but in the economic development world, it's manufacturing month. So several people have drawn our attention to this In Business magazine article that I'm holding up here that has Dale Evans from EBCO on the cover. Exciting for DeForest. There's also an article on Hooper in here, just a side note. But I can email this to you in PDF form if you'd like. But we're going to be highlighting this all month in social media, not only to our business contacts and our economic development site consultants and things, but also our residents. And we've gotten some good feedback on Facebook, some good interactions with folks on it. So we're going to be continuing to do that all month. And then the third thing, just wanted to let the board know, I went to the Wisconsin Economic Development Association conference in Appleton for a couple of days last week. It was a great opportunity to talk, to get some contacts refreshed. It's been a while since I've been to a conference at the state and the county and different areas in economic development, learning about talent recruitment, which is so different now, but also economic development in a comprehensive way that it's such a competitive thing now in terms of employers and communities being concerned with housing and childcare and things like that, just on how the state's attacking it. So it was really good. Just wanted to let you know I went to that. One of the things that brought up to me that was important that Steve and I had been talking about is really with different companies is the need for collaborative efforts among our companies and the need that they actually want to do that. We had a meeting with one of the manufacturers who said, I know everybody's dealing with these issues with talent recruitment, employment. How do we kind of tackle this together? So made us really think about, coalition efforts. We've done roundtables and things like that before, but maybe a little bit more intentional effort there. So just wanted to give you some feedback on that, let you know on what we got out of that. That's it for me.
Great. And I see Brandy's on. Does she have anything to add?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Jane.
Okay. All right. Well, it is, and I don't think Corey's on, so still taking care of the baby. So I would move back to Steve to begin the budget stuff. No?
So, back to budget. All right, so in your packet, I believe there was a memo that talked about where things stood. I did make some changes in here. As I mentioned, I would. The budget is very, very, very rough. You'll hear me say that a few times. A lot of big holes to figure out information we don't have yet. So I don't want to draw too much attention to things tonight. I just want to get a feel from the board where they want to be with some direction and some bigger items and setting a tax rate compared to inflation, things like that. So bear with me as we get through some of these. So that's tonight. It won't take a lot of time. The 19th, you're going to see a much more detailed, complete budget. Still will have some holes in it as we work through some things and get further direction from the board. The 2nd of November is where the board will take more detailed look at it, or whatever you want to, and then hopefully direct us to publish the public hearing version of the budget that then gets out to the public. They can come and see it or whatever, request it. We still have opportunities in November and into December for people to comment or the board to make change. It just so happens that on the 7th of December is when we're proposing the public hearing. We have 15 days that we have to notify people so they can come and look at the budget. But any changes that are going to occur since that public hearing, we want to bring that to the people's attention. Now, nobody's really come for years and years. So I don't expect there to be a huge impact where people are coming in and saying, drop this, lower things. So it's not been an issue for a long time, but that's kind of the sequence of events. So you'll see this again, even in November, as you know, if things are changing drastically. So that's kind of the framework of the budget calendar. You will see a budget and financial policies at the next meeting as well, something the board's approved every year for many, many years. I don't know if you folks have looked, it's actually in the 2021 budget document. So if you want to look at it, it's out on the website, or if you have a hard copy, it's there too. Very informative, and it's worth reading before the next meeting for sure. So that's coming forth. Let me go through a few of these and somebody can help keep an eye on time here. Is this the size that you folks can read it in front of you? Okay, I'm having a little hard time, but our tax base. So we had a good year again in tax growth. The combination of the reval process, so adjusting to market, and net new growth, we grew 7.8%. We don't have final numbers from Department of Revenue yet, but that's where I'm picking it to be. It has varied up to, $750,000, but that's minor compared to the volume we have out there of assessed value. So we've been pretty close to that over the years, so I'm not too concerned. Net new construction is important to us, so that affected by the assessment ratio. So our assessment ratio is 95%. So where the state says to equalize value at 100 throughout the state, we are 5% under that. So our assessor still is not able to keep up because the state doesn't really give them a target. They're doing the best they can. And we're looking at this annually, basically, and they're just, the growth is, or the inflation has happened so much in property values that it's hard to keep up with it. But so our net new construction for this purpose is 4.58. And through just the math side of this, thank you, Kelly. 3.22 would be the growth outside of that's the revaluation growth. So the average home, if there is such thing as an average home, would have increased by 3.22%. I bet you there's not one house in DeForest that is that. So people are going to be above, some people are going to be below that, but we have to have something to kind of aim at. And that's the figure we're looking at throughout the budget here. Revenue increases $115,000. I get into the details if you folks want, but they're getting, I got most of the shared revenue numbers in. Highway aids went up again, which is amazing. And we can look at that, I think, in more detail later. Let's see here. Expenses went up. Now they've gone down again. So there were two significant items that are more of a one-time or not as routine items that were proposed by department heads. One being the second squad car and another being some reinvestment in street lighting. In TID 1, I think it is up in that area. We have some decorative lights, I think, and we're looking to convert those to Alliant-based lights. So they're not as costly to us, I think, as part of it. Probably more energy efficient. So what I'm proposing we do that is not tax for those, rather put those in a capital projects fund with the CIP, but they're not really CIP. And fund it through highway aids, which we can put some of that money in there, and we have tower rent and some things like that. So it won't be as impactful to the taxpayer. I don't like big blips. These are $49,000 for the squad and $65,000, I think, for the streetlights. Those hurt the budget. So from the version you saw to what is in front of me today, it's $120-some thousand less, which is great. But we know we have a number of things coming forward yet that will impact us. Special revenue funds, these are not the general fund, but other things that impact taxes. I don't see any of those changing significantly. I still need to work a little bit with Reese on the athletic complex and others on events and things like that. So there might be a change in the taxation there. Community Senior Center is a minor increase, less than $1,000 to us, which is great. As long as they're able to deliver service, which is obviously important. So that surface is going up, but tax or assessed value is going up too, so it's not a huge impact. Two of the more important things, and you've heard me say this over the years or maybe just recently, but levy limits and expenditure restraint program. These are two things that the state requires us to comply with. Levy limits, so this is based on net new construction, and we actually grew by 4.6% with equalized value consideration. That's pretty good growth. That and their formula allows us to grow then our levy by almost $300,000. If we don't utilize all that, we lose it. It's kind of the state mentality of use it or lose it type of thing. And so that's one of the things we want the board to be aware of and target and hopefully capture, because we are growing. We have more services to deliver and we have inflation. All those things have to come in mind when we set a tax rate. And for folks that want to hear more about levy limits, I'd be happy to sit down one-on-one or as a group. Expenditure restraint, well, and let's just, the levy limit program, the penalty for not complying is they directly impact your shared revenues. They take them away, which hurts the taxpayer as well. So the programmatically is supposed to save the taxpayer from excess taxation. It does just the opposite. I've had a personal situation with a property I own that they doubled our taxes and now we lose the shared revenue, which causes more taxation. So there's some legislative discussions happening. But anyway, so that's how that works. Expenditure restraint is an even odder program. So this is budgeted expenditures, has nothing to do with actual. So they are allowing us to grow 5% of our budgeted expenditures, no matter how much we grow as a community. So our 4.6% net new construction, new homes, new tax base that we have to serve, we get 60% of that, up to 2%. So even though we grew by 4.6, we get 2% increase in our spending. It doesn't add up. The remaining 3% of the 5% is cost of inflation. The state is saying that inflation is going up at 3%. So that's another thing we have to think about when we set a tax rate. It costs us more, 3% more on average to deliver these services to people. So to say we're going to cut taxes or only increase them by 1%, you are hurting the services and the taxpayers we deliver service to. Keep that in mind as we have to make those tough decisions later. Let's see here. Gone through quite a bit of that. In the budget, I have added, and you can tell me if you don't agree, but Chief was before you asking for a sergeant position and then another officer to backfill that. I have that in the information you looked at. Okay, rough numbers. So that's in there. Reese had, so we'll be up to 21 sworn officers. And when the deployed officer comes back, we'll be at 22, which is good unless there's turnover and board chooses otherwise. But and then Reese had asked for a position for recreation and athletic complex work that is in this budget as well. That is about a $65,000 impact split between two sources. They're all taxpayer funded though. Other changes. So we still are working on health insurance. We've asked our employees to pick a plan. I just got those today, so I'll plug those in. Our property liability and auto insurance renewals came in rough. We had requested those. Lou and I looked at those and there's some significant impacts. And we said, try again. So hopefully they'll come back and be able to shave some expense off that. But that's a big item that's not in the budget yet. The garbage collection contract's not in the budget yet. We don't know if that's going up, down. We just have to be flexible when it comes in. Let's see what else here. Fire EMS budget went up some for staffing purposes. So just be aware of that. And I think Jane and Colleen could probably share more if they want, but my understanding it's harder and harder to keep people without paying them or paying very little for paid on call. So that's a bigger item, 30-some thousand. Don't have the library budget yet. They're waiting on some action. And then insurance. Jan is still waiting on insurance information from us, which we can't give her until we have it. The budget doesn't consider, it has me for a month or so in the budget as the continued employment. But nothing for consulting after the fact, if that's a choice of the board, if they choose, and I accept. So that's not in there yet. So those are the bigger items to talk about. Riveting. So next time, there are spreadsheets I can show you, but I just didn't feel like bringing it up now. We can talk more at the board meeting if you want.
Okay.
If you want to see more details, but it's a little early to be looking at details.
Okay. All right. I think it's 5:57. I would recommend that because this is on the board agenda as well, that we hold our questions till then and we take a 4-minute break before the next meeting. And then we'll be back.
Jay,
we
need a motion. Make a motion.
We have a second. We have motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I think we're waiting for Bill to come back. We will call the meeting to order. The meeting of the village board on Tuesday, October 5th at 6 p.m. I would ask that Callie note roll call. And I'd ask Colleen to lead us in the pledge. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, announcements. Put that over there so I don't mess it up. The village board will convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851E of the Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight, discussion of negotiating strategy with respect to parkland dedication or payment in lieu of parkland dedication for Bear Tree Farms West. We'll move to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 9/21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Rebecca, a second by Abby. Is there any discussions, corrections, or edits? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're going to move through the appearances before the board, and we'll start with Michael Muka, and I'd ask Judd to introduce him.
Yeah, so Michael Muka is here. He's from Madison Metropolitan Sewage District. They've rolled out their plan and budgets for next year, and he had offered to come and address the board. So I asked him if he would do that. So Michael, you can take it away.
Thank you, Judd, and members of the board. I was looking at your agenda. I see you have a full agenda today. And so what I thought I would do is give you a briefing level version of what Steve and Judd have already heard at least twice. And I would look to you, Judd and Steve, to maybe fill in some blanks where maybe I go too fast or critical details that I miss out on. So I should give you about a 10-minute briefing. I felt I should come. It's been a couple of years since I've been before for the village board, and I feel I owe it to you to share the big picture at the Madison Metropolitan Sewage District, aside from receiving my rate letter, which it comes in late August. And then you're looking at, what our service charge is going to be or projected to be for the next 12 months. I think there's a story that I'd like to tell about what we've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years or so, and what the next 6 years will look like, including what potential impacts there will be on service charges, which is information that last time I visited with you, we didn't do enough good strategic planning for me to come in with confidence and project out for the future. We are a highly regulated utility. We're a regional utility, and all of our resources go to compliance with our state discharge permit, which is protecting public health and the environment. Failure for us is not an option, and it can be expensive if we don't. You as one of our owners expect us to succeed, and we are actually not separate from you, some standalone utility. We represent you and your interests as an owner of the district, and we take that responsibility very seriously. We formed in 1930 because it was decided that collecting our resources as a region was much more cost effective than each community going it alone and building their own wastewater treatment plants. And since 1930, we have grown from 5 communities to today, where we have 27 utilities, cities, villages, and towns as part of what we do. We try to be proactive. We are proactive, and we've never had a situation where we've had a consent decree from the EPA requiring us to do work on a short order and dramatically increasing rates, nor have we had major raw water discharges like other parts in the country. And many times going along quietly like we have, we take this for granted. but it's because of the support you've given the district through the years to do good planning and make good investments that we've been able to do that. We are in the midst of tackling a major infrastructural renewal period. And we have been doing so for the last 10 years, and it will continue into the foreseeable future as we build our budget capacity to handle our renewal responsibilities. High spending periods have occurred throughout our history. The difference this time around is that federal funding is no longer available. Federal funding funded 60 to 70% of our plant infrastructure that we're now trying to replace. And that federal funding doesn't exist anymore. Our limits are harder to achieve through traditional means. Since we are talking, the water is so clean that getting the next part per million or billion out of the water is very expensive. However, the good news is we have more tools at our disposal than we did in the past. You're probably familiar with, as a village board, things that you're tackling every day with regard to infrastructure, aging infrastructure. The average age of our infrastructure is 50 years old. And we are going through the first major replacement of our treatment infrastructure. We disinfect our wastewater through ultraviolet light. It's UV disinfection. And that system was put in place in the 1980s and was the first of its kind at the time. And we just replaced that system, and it went online last year. Our heat and power systems, where we generate renewable energy, are also at the point of being replaced now and are in our future plan. Regulatory compliance is continuing it's always been a part of the district, but in the last 10 years, we have 3 major new regulations: one for phosphorus in reducing our nutrients, one for chloride in salt. People don't realize it, but we receive over 100 tons of salt in our wastewater every single day. That is the equivalent of 10 salt trucks that come through us, and it passes through our system untreated. And we now have a chloride limit in our new permit, where we have to bring our chloride loads down. And now we have a new air permit, and we're being regulated for all of our air permit. And around the corner is PFAS, which is in our wastewater, and we'll be planning for that. Capacity improvements. Dane County is one of the fastest growing counties in Wisconsin, and additional capacity is required to accommodate this growth. We have planned for it and are extending more capacity north toward you. In the last 10 years alone, $72 million in infrastructure have gone and been dedicated to increasing capacity to accommodate growth. And then the last thing, of course, is extreme weather and climate change. In the last 10 years, we have experienced 4 of our highest peak flow events in our 80-year history. A large storm can increase our flows 4-fold, and that comes in the form of inflow and infiltration through high groundwater, through surface water getting into our manholes and into laterals and all of this. And so our flows actually went up from 40 million to 160 million gallons a day instantaneously during the 2018 storm flooding event. Most of our infrastructure built in the 50s and 60s was not designed to handle such large fluctuations. So what have we been doing about all of these challenges? Over the last 10 years, we have invested $140 million in critical infrastructure. And that has required us to increase our revenue requirement or our budget on an average of 6.5% per year over this period of time. So $140 million in infrastructure, a 6.5% increase in service charges. If you are paying more than that, and DeForest typically does, that means your flows and loadings are increasing at a faster rate when compared to other communities. It's because you're paying for your actual flows and loadings that you bring to us. Your industrial users such as Sanimax and the Little Potato Company has increased the strength of your waste noticeably since 2018. And the extreme weather events such as the floods of 2018 have increased your flows significantly more than other communities. And for some reason, and we don't really know the answer why, but those high flows have sustained since that period of time. And even as we moved into the pandemic and through the pandemic, which is curious. We don't really understand why that has occurred. And I know we've been working with Steve and Judd on getting control over these expenditures and trying to understand more of what's happening and why. In the next 6 years, our capital plans call for $210 million in critical infrastructure. We'll be continuing our work in the collection system and plant renewal like we have over the last 10 years through the approved facility plans we have and making progress on those. But some main drivers which are bringing the costs up over the 6-year period have to do with 1, heat and power, and 2, permit compliance. We generate electricity at our plant. We convert methane gas that we produce through digestion of solids through our wastewater. We capture that methane and we put it through a generator that burns it and converts it into electricity. That entire system is 30 to 40 years old, and we have to replace it. And we did an energy study, and we're calling for $50 million of new infrastructure to replace that system. And we are moving away from generation and moving towards converting that gas to the grid and taking income from it, because our air permit to burn methane gas, our new air permit, makes it cost prohibitive to do so. And we burn off a lot of gas when we can't use it, which pollutes the air. The collection system and our new permit with permit compliance at Badger Mill Creek will be another $20 million to remove phosphorus. And while these dollars are high, and they really are, we've avoided over $650 million in new infrastructure through adaptive approaches, which I will say the district performs better than any other utility in the country. You are involved in the Yahara Winds Partnership, and we have moved to reducing phosphorus in the wastewater or in the watershed through working with farm producers on phosphorus runoff strategies. And that has avoided $140 million upgrade to our treatment plant. Chloride, we did a study, and to reduce that amount of chloride to meet our permit would cost us $500 million in a reverse osmosis treatment plant to remove salt from the system. We'll have a hazardous waste we need to deal with, and then we would have to ship it out of state to get rid of it. And instead, we convinced the EPA and DNR to let us use source reduction to reduce chloride loads over a 20-year period. And that involves us working with you on water softener optimization and road salt usage to bring those numbers down. So just $650 million we've avoided through these periods of time. I'm about ready to conclude, and next year's service charges I propose to our commission, we're proposing an increase of 6.6% in service charges for 2022. which amounts to, for an average household in our service area, about $215 per year, and an increase of about $1.90 a month. We are also built into this budget. We are investing more in cash financing of our infrastructure instead of borrowing for it. Right now, we borrow 91% of our costs through the state revolving fund. And in 6 years, we'll be down to 71%. So over time, we're moving to more cash financing, and that's built in to the budget. So with that, maybe I'll ask Judd or Steve if there are any details I should handle. I know I talked quickly, but maybe I'll stop there and see if there's members of the board that that have questions.
Anybody have questions? Rebecca?
Yeah, I just need to get a little clarification on what you were saying. You were saying a 6.6% overall increase, which amounts to about $215 a year. And then you said 1.9 per month. It didn't make sense to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that $1.90 additional per month.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Steve or Judd, do you have anything you want him to add to?
No, Michael covered it pretty well and fast.
Michael, thank you. That's a very informative and helpful presentation. I'm sure when we see the increase, we'll start asking more questions. So,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, I'm going to move to the public appearances now. John Skapansky was listed. He doesn't want to speak, but he did provide us with a statement that was distributed to the board. So we thank you for that. And I always thank you for your little bit of history you put in your comments. So thank you. Brian Coker, do you want to speak? You want to come up here, and you got to sit close to the microphones when they're turned on. So.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your service to our community. My name is Brian Coker, and I've been a resident of DeForest for 8 years. I come before you tonight to encourage you to adopt a resolution supporting a nonpartisan procedure for legislative redistricting. As you know, our community is currently split into multiple different state legislative districts based on the maps drawn after the 2010 census, and this is true for many communities across Wisconsin. I believe strongly that nonpartisan legislative maps are critical to ensuring that our representatives are truly accountable to the communities they represent. We all as citizens have a duty to preserve and protect our system of democracy. And I believe that drawing nonpartisan maps after the 2020 census is a critical first step to begin restoring civility and accountability to our government. The drawing of legislative districts should emphasize keeping communities and neighborhoods together wherever possible, and should explicitly not take into account voting or party affiliation. We need to stop treating politics as a two-team sport and treat it as the important and serious civic duty that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. It's an important issue. Macy Bueller? Did I say that right? Is it Macy? Okay.
Hello, I'm Macy Bueller. I am a resident and a business owner. I am speaking today on behalf of also the nonpartisan redistricting of maps. During
Macy,
COVID
can I interrupt? Can you take your mask off while you speak? Thank you.
Okay. Is it working? There it goes. During COVID, this has been amplified. Our rep has never reached out to me as a business owner, even though I've reached out to him several times. I've had Melissa Sargent, for an example, reach out and offer me support. And I'm sorry, I can't think of the rep from Wanakee and Windsor, but they have reached out to me because I service their constituents. Never once have we received anything. I'm also the charter rep for a Boy Scout group out of Windsor, and he just really is non-existent there too. I think we really have to speak out, not just as a resident, but as a small business owner, that we need this to be nonpartisan. None of COVID should have been partisan. Support for my business, I was asked to stay open during COVID. We served our essential working families at my business, and we needed support right away. It took months on the state level, and we saw that too, that we had no support. So I think we have to, again, take politics out of the gerrymandered maps. We need to do the Iowa model and perhaps look at something a little more modern and redo that. We have to, as a community, really speak out here, because as we've heard, we have 3 different representatives, and as a school board, as a community, it's very difficult. That's difficult. It's difficult for me as a business owner. Who do I turn to? Who do I talk to? So we need more representation that represents our community as a whole, not just certain parts. And again, I remember 2011 when the maps were redrawn, and actually one of the topographers lived in Windsor, and I knew when he was working on that. I know Whitford, who took it all the way to the Supreme Court. This has been an issue. I guess I'm kind of jealous that Iowa took care of 40 years ago. We're so far behind. So I hope as a community, we go and we stand behind that. We need this redistricted in a nonpartisan way.
Thank you. Did you state your name and address? I just didn't hear.
I did not address. I have 2 addresses. So I'm Macy Bueller. I own Yahara River Learning Center, and I just purchased that a couple weeks ago. So that is at 4165 Timothy Court, which is also in DeForest. And then I'm also a resident, and I've been here, 25 years. And we live on Lincoln Green Court, or Lincoln Green Street. Sorry, Timothy Court is my business. So I am a business owner and a resident speaking out for the nonpartisan redistricting map drawing. So, all right.
Thank you so much. Adam Hannock.
Hello, my name's Adam Hannock. I live at 612 Acker Parkway. I've lived in Forest for almost 6 years now. I am coming to speak to the board to encourage you to support a resolution supporting the creation of a nonpartisan procedure for the preparation of legislative and congressional redistricting plans. Kind of just piggybacking off of what they said before, they both did a really good job. I have tried to contact my representative when it was John Jagler in the assembly multiple times, emails, phone calls regarding many issues over the course of my time here. And I had never once received any kind of a response from him, and never a phone call back, never an email, nothing ever following up. And I feel like the way that districts were drawn, 10 years ago, he doesn't need to necessarily respond to me because he knows that he's going to win, or he knew he was going to win re-election next time, And I feel like probably the new assembly district person is going to, be the exact same way. He's got no reason to listen to me when he knows he's going to win re-election. So that being said, I think it's really important that you as a, representative of DeForest speak out and say, hey, we need maps to be drawn fairly, and we need everyone, to be represented and to have a voice as far as all of that is concerned. So that's why I am here.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Jean Jacobson.
Hi, my name is Jean Jacobson, and I'm a resident of DeForest and have been for 26 years. I live at 806 Brook Street. Until 10 years ago, the village of DeForest was in one assembly district with one community of interest. That all changed in 2011 when the legislature redrew the maps in secret and they divided our village of approximately 7,000 people at the time into 3 assembly districts. Our municipality and our community of interest was broken apart. DeForest residents are now a small part of 3 different assembly districts. Not one of the representatives lives in the DeForest or Windsor area. They are all in the other communities. Our voice and our collective power when addressing concerns to our representatives has been greatly diminished. The sole purpose of this redistricting was to give a political advantage to the party drawing the maps. This is gerrymandering. This is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. It belongs to both parties, and it's wrong. I'm here to ask the village board to place on their next meeting agenda a proposed resolution supporting the creation of a nonpartisan resolution, the creation of a nonpartisan procedure for the preparation of legislative and congressional redistricting plans. 56 of the 72 counties in Wisconsin have passed a resolution or referendum to this matter, representing 83% of the populace. It crosses party lines across the state. The people of Wisconsin want fair maps. I'm asking the DeForest Village Board to join the movement calling for a fair and transparent redistricting process in Wisconsin. The citizens of DeForest deserve nothing less than to be back in one assembly district, one community of interest. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mary Sanderson?
Hello, everybody. I am Mary Sanderson. I thank you for being here, and I'm glad that there's this procedure for speaking out. I thank the previous speakers for bringing up the resolution for a procedure for fair districts. When DeForest was torn apart in 2011, we were disrespected and disempowered. And to me, that shows a very big flaw in the law. So I am just hoping that our board, as a humiliated party from this bad system, will be eager to adopt a resolution calling for fair mapping procedures for the whole state, seconding all that Jean said and the other speakers. Thank you.
Mary, can you just give your address for the record?
513 Yorktown Road.
Right, thank you. All right, and many of you know we have this issue on our agenda tonight. We can't do the resolution tonight. We have to put that on the next meeting, but we are going to discuss the maps. So great, thank you. All right. Then the next matter under appearances is a public hearing on a request to amend map 6-1, future land use with volume 2 of the Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan affecting Bear Tree Farms West, lands southeast of the Highway 51/Windsor Road interchange in the Village of DeForest. That was quite a mouthful. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:34 p.m. And I would ask if there was anyone who wished to appear for the public hearing. I'm just not hearing you, Mike. I'm sorry. We could do it now, I guess, and then We have ordinances coming up. Right. Right.
Hello, Mike Hawkins with Snyder and Associates. I wanted to touch on, first of all, stepping back, we're here in support of a number of the resolutions and that you'll be acting on or discussing tonight. Main topic that we wanted to discuss is, the baseball park agreement that goes with the concept plan that's out there that it was supported by planning and zoning. We're looking with on your agenda tonight is a C1 zoning change proposal that we're supportive of as long as the baseball field can be built as a private entity. It's our understanding that the language supports that. There is one reference to public facilities at the end of that language that makes us a little leery that maybe all the interpretation or the list above would be all public facilities rather than such facilities or something to that manner. So as long as,
Take your mask off.
oh, sure.
Thanks.
Okay, gladly. So, thank you. So as we're looking at 9.4 for tonight, we just wanted to make sure that when that gets acted on, or if there's not a language change, that there's the understanding that a athletic field that's privately owned could be built under the C1 zoning. As it relates to the park fee agreement that I know you've talked about in closed session in the past, and we're ready to move forward if the village isn't ready for a perpetual use or perpetual maintenance of that baseball field to move forward with a private development of that field. There is a document that, or a drawing that we've sent to Steve late yesterday, and I don't know if you even got it in your packets, but essentially it's asking for enough dedication to cover the single family portion of the concept plan and the duplex condo portion of the plan, which is just a little under 3 acres. And then the multifamily developments that are part of the concept would end up paying a fee in lieu of dedication instead of dedicating the baseball field. So that's the main reason that we wanted to speak tonight, is just to inform you the developer is supportive of selling land to people that want to put up multifamily development, but they would end up paying the fee in lieu that it has been a subject of discussion over a number of months here. So is there anything else that?
We should just to clarify in the ordinance, the amendment to the C1 ordinance, I think Mark made a valuable change to it, but the one thing that we would like to delete is there's a reference to public before the word facilities in the last line of it that might be construed as modifying all the items listed before it. So if you take out the word public at the end, that would eliminate that possible erroneous interpretation that could be given to it. So I think Mark took out the word public earlier, which helped. So we would ask that last reference to public before the word facilities in the last line be removed. Other than that, of course, we're also here to answer any questions if you have any on all the various approval items for Bear Tree tonight. But I know you've heard a lot about that before, and the Plan Commission, I believe, voted for all those items unanimously. So hopefully you've already got your questions answered, but if you have any, Mike, then I can certainly try to answer them.
Thank you. Rebecca.
Sorry, I just need a little bit of clarification. You're referring to a line on which document,
It's in
which
the,
item?
Yeah, that would be the C1 amendment, which is 9.4.
9.4.
It's ordinance, so it'd be the ordinance 2021-30.
And where in that
Okay,
document?
let's see, at the end, it says after farmers markets, community events and other accessory uses commonly associated with such public facilities. And then it says, not including any public golf course. I would just ask that it say uses commonly associated with such facilities. Take out the word public before the word facilities so that it's consistent with.
Could you say where in that document that is? I'm
Section-
having trouble finding that.
Paragraph C.
Section 2C. toward the bottom of page 1.
And when we get to the item, we can go through that, Rebecca, and
Yeah, because I'm just
yeah,
not.
we'll
finding it.
go
Sorry.
through it then.
There was a reference to public earlier in it that Mark, it was before the plan commission, and I believe Mark modified that to eliminate that.
Maybe I'm
I think
looking,
that second
I'm not seeing it at
public should
all.
be removed.
Okay. Thank you. We will track that when we look at the item specifically. And are there anybody else who wishes to speak at the public hearing?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. If there's no one else to speak, I will close the public hearing at 6:40 PM.
Jane, could I make a motion to suspend the rules and go to agenda item 8.2? About the redistricting maps?
You can, but Abby has made a motion to suspend the rules and move to 8.2. Is there a second? I'll second it. Okay, we have a second. I don't think we need to discuss it, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're going to go to 8.2. We have information in your packets, some maps and other documents regarding the maps that were presented to us by the county. Abby, do you want to speak to those?
Sure. So in terms of the county, I believe it's Luann or Callie that attached the three different map options for the county's level of redistricting. And my understanding is the next step is that the whole county board would, I'm not sure what date, but would approve one of those maps. And those maps come from a smaller committee that was charged with looking through the different maps and possibilities. And if you look at those three county options, feel free to jump in and disagree with me if I'm wrong in my interpretation, but all three of those look like DeForest is, the entirety of DeForest is within one county supervisor district. Just the numbering kind of changes depending on, which map they go with. So I'm not sure if there's much action needed in terms of the county redistricting. Looks like Al has something.
Well, Al?
Two things. First of all, in terms of the process, only one map is going to the county board. That's going to be selected by the executive committee on, I believe, Thursday night. So any comments are going to have to get to them before Thursday. I did a quick review of the maps, and I believe option A actually does divide the village into two districts to begin with. The area down by Fleet Farm is one that I recall was carved out from that map, which means that you'd be in two districts, but then if any growth into Vienna occurred, you would end up with three districts the first time you made that move. So I think the other two, C and G, did keep the village intact, but I think A has a carve out.
Okay, thank you for catching that. I guess I'm going to change. I was originally going to say, maybe, so I'm going to change what I'm suggesting, wondering if the board would be okay if we sent some kind of formal communication to the county executive committee recommending, was it C and G or keep DeForest whole? Recommending those two options and the reasoning because we don't want our community split in two different supervisor districts. Does that sound, are people okay with that?
Yep. Al, were you trying to say more?
I want to sound like a lobbyist, but I think the
It's okay. It's an honorable profession.
no, not really. I think you'd probably be better off trying to get that message to the executive committee, probably through your county supervisor, as opposed to sending it back to the map making committee, because the executive committee is going to decide which map goes to the county board, and it may get approved on a first vote. So I think you're better off getting that message to the people who are deciding which map is still in play, rather than waiting to see what happens.
So you're suggesting communicating with Maureen? Yeah. Rebecca?
Yeah, so just so I'm understanding what we're talking about here, we're just making our voice heard as a community saying, hey, we want to stay as one unit rather than being chopped into 3 or 2. Is that correct?
That's where we are now. I did hear that there were a number of communities that did not like A, which is a positive thing. So it's likely that either C or G will be sent to the board for approval, but it doesn't hurt to pile on, I guess, if you want to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Jane?
Oh, Lou, I'm
Luann.
sorry. There you are over there.
I did talk to the Dane County Clerk today, and it sounds as though the committee is recommending to the executive committee to move forward with map C.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they're going to pick it, but that's what they're suggesting.
Well, I would entertain a motion that we communicate with Maureen our concurrence and the reason why.
I would so move.
Second, we have a motion by Rebecca, a second by Tashidra. Any further discussion? Jim?
So looking at the map, and I look at our district and they seem to be pretty well the same as far as on the C or G. And Al, you're right, if we would ever annex, we can no longer annex into, say, the village of Windsor. So any annexations would be Burke, Westport, or Vienna. And right now, those 3 communities, depending on which map you look at, they're either in 2 or 1 district. So I don't know if that's a difference for us to pick one or versus another. You see what I'm saying? That option G, they're all in District 32. In option C, they're Burke and Westport's in 1 district, and Vienna's in what would be a 3rd. And I guess I just bring that up because I don't know how long these districts are in place, and knowing that the Burke agreement is going to be
10
happening
years.
somewhat soon.
They'll stay as they're approved for 10 years till the next census.
Mhm.
Okay. So are you suggesting C is the better option?
I'm suggesting G might be the better option for us.
Okay.
I do believe the Burke agreement goes over 10 years, if I remember right. Yep.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we want to amend it to recommend
I would
G?
I would agree to that amendment to recommend G instead of C.
All right, and is there any, ask a question, is there any value to having one, G is number 1 choice and C is number 2 and A is off the table?
Yeah, I would totally agree to that.
I'm agreeable to that.
Okay. Abby?
Just wondering, who would be the point person to communicate this? Would it be you? Would it be Luann, Steve? Just so we know.
I'll coordinate with Luann and we'll get the message to Maureen tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Do we need to take a vote?
we're gonna vote. I just wanted to make sure there were no other comments or questions. So We have a motion, and I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We're voting for G with as the primary, C as the backup, and A as a no-go.
All right, everyone, aye? Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And we will get that communicated.
Oh, Jane, could I talk about the People's Maps Commission and the state legislature maps too? Sure. There's just so much redistricting going on right now. So attached is the for congressional districts, Senate districts, and assembly districts. For each one, there's 3 options that the governor's appointed People's Maps Commission created, and they're putting forward. And they're still soliciting public feedback until 11:59 p.m. This Thursday. And there is an option on their website for a written comment submission. And I did email the commission to find out since if we did communicate a more official position, it would be, representing the community as a village. I'm wondering if I emailed them to find out if they want us to do the normal written comment portal that they have on their website, if there's a different way, but I haven't heard back yet. But I was looking through the maps, and people can jump in and share what they've noticed as well. But with the congressional districts, they look like DeForest, and DeForest is included in its entirety in the congressional districts. I didn't really see necessarily anything concerning with any of the 3 options. If other people have opinions on that. And then looking at the Senate district, 3 options, and the Assembly district, 3 options. I think for both, option 2 is probably the worst, because if you look at both the Senate option 2 and Assembly district option 2, it just splits up DeForest. And we've already been split up into 3 Assembly districts and 3 Senate districts for the last 10 years. And I don't think it's a unreasonable expectation to say we would like our community in one Assembly district and 1 Senate district.
Kelly, can you put those maps up?
I got it, Jane.
Okay, thanks.
And then also, if you look at Senate District Option 2, it looks really weirdly shaped as well. And it kind of loops underneath south of Madison. And so I don't think we have a whole lot in common with the, south of Madison area. So yeah, that shows the split right in the middle of DeForest. I don't think that's beneficial. Option 1 and option 3, they both have DeForest fully included in the Assembly districts and Senate districts. What I noticed with option 1 is that we would be more included with Wanakee, which we're fairly similar to in terms of size and I guess culture and community of interest wise. With Senate option 3 and Assembly district option 3, all of DeForest is included, but also Windsor. And obviously we have a lot in common with Windsor. A lot of some people don't even quite know which municipality they're technically a part of, because we're just so blended. And in that district, instead of being lumped with Wanakee, it's more of like the rural area north of Sun Prairie, like the town of Bristol and whatnot. And I'm not too sure. My preference would, in terms of our community, I would say options 1 or 3. I'm not too sure, which one we might pick, or if we would do similar with the county board position, is say those are the 2 that we prefer. But I'm wondering if you would be interested in us as officially as on the village board, recommending or putting forward a public written comment for the People's Maps Commission by Thursday.
And are you giving us a recommendation you'd like us to make, which,
Yes, I can make that a motion. That's. I make that motion. I make a motion that we submit a public comment to People's Maps Commission stating our preferences for Assembly District and Senate District options 1 and 3. To make sure that DeForest is fully, the whole community of DeForest is fully included in the Senate District and Assembly District.
okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Colleen made the second. Is there any further discussion or questions? Jim?
Just a point of clarification. You say you're in options 1 and 3. That's 1 and 3 for both
Mhm.
assembly and representative.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Tashidra?
Abby, do you suggest we put a qualifier on those like we did the other one? Option 3 over option 1, or?
I'd be open to that. I guess I'm not sure what we prefer. I'm wondering what people think. Like if I guess the biggest thing that in my mind is difference between the two is how important is it that we're in a district with Windsor versus Wanakee? I guess those are the two big difference that I saw between options 1 and 3.
Opinions? Tashidra?
When I was looking at it, I was more favorable towards Windsor, just because we're so close in proximity. Our residents navigate between both communities. We have a community center that services both communities. And I think unity is very important nowadays, and making sure that, especially since our school district works with both communities really close. So I was more favorable to the DeForest Windsor blend just because we cross over it so much.
So are you suggesting that we give the DeForest Windsor one number 1 and the DeForest Wanakee our second option?
Yes, thank you for the clarification. I would support option 3 being the preference, with option 1 being secondary.
I'd accept that, Friendly.
Colleen, do you accept that? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
This is one more.
One more, Abby.
Because the state legislature is doing their own redistricting process. This is where it might get kind of ugly later when the two different maps kind of butt heads and might end up in courts. But right now, the state legislature has their own website called Draw Your District Wisconsin. And right now, for input, the only options are either submit your own map on that website, or wait until the final plan or the final map is introduced as a bill at the committee level, and then they'll have public hearings. There's not really a middle point where we're seeing with the People's Maps Commission or the county board where they have some proposals and we can weigh in and then they choose the final. So right now I'm seeing it as we could submit our own map for DeForest and say how we want to include it. I personally think this resolution that residents brought forward or some similar version might actually be more effective because we could mail or send this to our legislators. And I think actually at the bottom it says, oh, it's very comprehensive. The governor, the counties associations, towns association, League of Wisconsin League of Municipalities, of course, the legislature and the county board. And that might be the most effective way to have input in the process to try and I guess the only thing I would add, the big thing I would add to this resolution is our emphasis on the whole entirety of DeForest being in one assembly district and one Senate district. I think that.
And because we can't really act on this because it just came to us.
Oh,
tonight,
yeah.
we have time to take action at the next meeting and submit it?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was suggesting is if it could be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Right. Okay, good. Bill?
Would this take 3 trustees to get it forward a resolution?
No, we can,
I think just either if Jane co-signs on it, since she's our village president. If she's against it, then maybe I might need 2 other trustees, but
no, I think we're fine.
thank you. I really appreciate it. I think this is a really great step forward for our community and making sure our community's voices are heard at both at the government level, but just also for all the community members here. So
Thank you, Abby. All right, did we finish that motion? We did. Yep. Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you, everyone, for coming and we're back to old business. And Steve, do you want to do more on the budget?
I didn't have anything planned if the board wants me to spend more time. More time on it, or have questions. I did have one trustee reach out and I will be happy to sit down with people.
Thank you.
We have a question.
Abby?
Oh, just my big question is, would it be the next meeting that we talk about, the tax rate that we're looking at to guide the rest of the budget process?
Yes, there'll be much more information available to make an educated decision on it. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. 7.2 is the next version of the recognition policy. We had it in your packet. It had edits from lots of people. So I would ask if there are questions or concerns or motion, Rebecca, and then Colleen.
Yeah, while I don't have a problem with having a standard policy on how and when we as a board choose to recognize folks for their various contributions to the village, I do have a problem with us delegating it to bureaucracy and giving them discretion over whether or not they decide to do something or not. Discretion to me denotes the potential, not saying it would happen, but it denotes the potential for bias and abuse. If you get rid of the discretion, then you make it fair, you make it consistent, it becomes equitable, it becomes an automatic process. And you eliminate the need for any kind of appeals process on top of that. So that's one thing. The other thing I was very concerned about was what in the world is behind the all nominated for formal resolutions and proclamations will receive a background check. That blew me away. And I was like, those 2 things I just can't support it with those 2 things in this.
Well, I'll go to Colleen in just a minute, but I can answer the background check one. We have situations, and one that may be coming up where people who have been on commissions for a while are perhaps going to be leaving because they're having legal challenges or ethics challenges, and We don't want to be supporting people who have that as an issue or recognizing it.
I can understand that. I mean, if they're leaving because of cause, then I agree they should not be being recognized, but I do have a problem with these background checks first. What's the standard for the background check? Where is it going to be going through? Most background checks people have to agree to. And this is just, I find it very difficult to even remotely consider something like that. I can understand a process where we discuss a situation, you know, but I just have a real problem with, I mean, if we know what's going on, that's one thing, but to subject somebody for a background check, that's just incredibly invasive.
All right. We have Colleen next.
I guess my first question is, formal resolutions, A, retirement of a board member after more than 4 years of service. Does that mean you've been on the board for 10 or 12 years, but now you don't get reelected? Is that a retirement? Because one should certainly be recognized for 10 or 12 years on the board. Because under proclamations, I mean, there's all kinds of, you can get a proclamation for being on 2 years, can be a for 4 years. There just seem to be a lot of acknowledgement for a small number of years. And I just want to make sure that under formal resolutions, I mean, I think if you're leaving the board after a number of years, it ought to, an expression of appreciation ought to come from the board itself that you've been on. So what is retirement?
I think the implication was that, you know, you were leaving for one reason or another, but could you resolve that question if you just took off the first 3 words under A and said the retirement of and just started with a board member
Yes,
leaves after?
yes.
Okay. Okay, anything?
Let's. No, I think it was just confusing. Proclamation, service on the board, a committee or commission of 2 years or more of service. Proclamations can be used for various forms of recognition, including service on the board under 2 years. This is really getting complicated.
So I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you suggesting taking a word out of board where it says
Proclamations, service on the board of 2 years or more of service, or service on the board under 4 years?
So are you saying that the first bullet under proclamations and letter A are not in complement?
Yeah,
I mean, that the one suggestion that was brought to me after this was already out was that if you took out service on the first bullet where it says service on a board, a committee or a commission, you just took the word board out, that might in fact clarify things. And so it's service on a commission or committee.
oh, sure, yeah, that would help. So you'd have to be on a board for 4 years, but you'd be just on a committee or commission for 2. 2 years on the board, I mean, the first year is kind of learning.
Yep.
So there isn't a whole lot to proclaim.
Okay. All right.
So yes, 4 years on the board.
Abby, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I must have missed something when I read through it earlier. Where does it talk about background check? I completely missed it.
It's on the top of page 3, the last bullet point under procedure.
I'm sorry, all nominated for formal resolutions and proclamations will receive a background check. That's right before it talks about.
Oh, okay. I see it now. Thank you. I must, yeah, maybe I missed it because it's like a little bullet point towards then. I guess I was before I have an opinion on it, is that maybe possibly just a quick check on the CCAP? Which is,
Or just kind of a quick. I'm sorry, Bill? We were I think just a quick check and looking at what's going on with their records or things that may have come forth that staff or board knows about. I don't think we're looking at an in-depth
okay.
background check.
I mean, I might think about it a bit more, but I guess my first instinct is to think I guess it's reasonable. I guess, I mean, 95%, probably 95% or more of people, like it's not going to really affect, but I guess it could potentially be embarrassing and distract from like, you know, that we're trying to do something positive if there was somebody that slipped through the cracks that you wouldn't really want to be officially associated with. I guess I'm thinking of, well, there's so many different things. I guess if there was like some kind of child abuse thing in their past. I'll think a bit more about it, but I guess that's where I am right now.
Okay. This came to me during comments from folks, so I didn't make this one up, so. Rebecca? Oh, and then Jim.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't make it up. Anyway, the other things that I was noticing is just kind of some clarifications, just to kind of, because it was saying formal resolutions change more. I was saying change more than 4 years to 4 or more years, and then change more than 8 years to 8 or more years, because otherwise you've got a gap. And then under the proclamations regarding recognition of committee members, and I'll explain why I'm saying this in just a second. I'm saying make it so that it's those who serve 2 to 9 years there, but then those that serve for 10 or more years, I think should be a formal resolution.
Okay.
Because that's significant service. And I just think it makes it, give it a little bit more punch, more emphasis on the recognition.
Okay. This may be the longest writing process we've had in the village. Jim?
I guess I would like to make a motion and then try to capture at least these 4 changes that we've mentioned. I'd like to make a motion to, I'm sorry, I can't see. Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the village board policy. Is that what we're doing right now? And I'd say as written with the 4 changes noted, one of them being that we're taking away the retirement of and being straight a board member, and that's for the formal resolution A. And I do like what was done with the committee members, that a formal resolution for a committee member of 10 years or more. And down below where it changed 2 to 9 for the proclamation for a committee member. So that. And I also have proclamations of, okay, there it was, where you took the board off of the first open bullet point under proclamation. I think that is a clarifying. So that's 3 changes, I'll say. In the recommendation I was going to make for the background check is if we change that background check comment to being just for the formal resolution. Not necessarily the proclamations and certificate of recognition. That was going to be my recommended motion.
All right.
My theory on that is the formal is something that is more involved in the proclamations, and the certificates are more, say, quick hitter type things that's being done by the administrator for the most part.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Jane, I'll second it. I'm also a little frustrated at the depth of this thing. I mean, I hate to say it again, but what, 5.5 years on the board, we've issued a few proclamations. It really wasn't that difficult. It's just frustrating for me that this is holy smokes. But I'll second the motion, Jim.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Bill?
Yeah, I share Rebecca and Colleen's. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a lot of gobbledygook, and I'd vote no, just because it's too complex.
Okay. Al?
I wasn't following the text as the discussion was going on about removing the word board, but I just wanted to make sure you understand that you do have a couple of boards that are not village board, not the village board. You have a library board, and the ethics committee is technically a board, and I'm going to be recommending that you change the title of that when we do the update of that code. So if that affects what you're thinking, you might want to look at the wording of that.
Sure. We can, that's a language clarification that's pretty easy. All right. Tashidra and then Rebecca.
I just would like us to think about or speak to how we clarify what we're looking for with the background check. I do think that, you know, when you're giving a formal resolution, you definitely want to make sure you're not setting yourself up. You know, if you're recognizing someone who really is going to prison for something horrible, it kind of makes it look bad. But I do think we should have a clarifier on what exactly are we looking for with the background check, what makes you, you know, a candidate or not a candidate. But then I think we also need to make sure that we bring that individual on board before we publicly recognize or bring attention to their life. I mean, the whole purpose of recognition is to bring light that someone serviced their community tirelessly without, you know, any type of monetary gain. And I think this is becoming a really daunting process. If you see someone who's done well, just recognize them. It still has to come to the board for a vote. I think we're making it difficult for people. I think we're making it difficult for the board to just recognize community members who are doing their part to service their community. I think we're really turning this opportunity to shine light on someone's goodness into what can become a farce. So I just think if we're gonna go with the background check, we need a clarifier in summation. We need a clarifier on what exactly we're looking for and what makes them a candidate or not. And then we definitely should give them a heads up, say, you know, so that we know, because if someone's looking at my background, they're not going to find anything. But I would like to know that they're, you know, looking at my business just because they want to recognize me for something. So.
All right.
It's not an invitation to look me up.
Jim and Rebecca.
I guess I would be open to removing background check, but I recommended that as a sort of in between, because what I could see happening is if you want to lift somebody up for a formal resolution and maybe they say, well, I don't want the background check, then we could still give a proclamation. And I guess what I was picturing is what I just did with a job change is that they said they needed to do a background check. I logged in, gave them my whatever approval with the name or address, whatever I had to do. And they turned it around in 5 minutes and said that it was good. So I don't know what they did in 5 minutes, but it was really quick. I would hope we could do something the same, not necessarily a long process.
Chief, you want to talk about what kind of background check?
I think the most important thing would just to be do an open source search. In other words, either like Google search engine type stuff that's common out in the community. Something that someone could find that would bring a bad look to the village if you were to stand behind a person and say, oh, they were great service to the village, and somebody Google searches it, and next thing you know, you have topics that are adverse that could bring harm. So simple open source search, nothing, I wouldn't recommend anything like a financial search or like a detailed, you have to sign a formal document to get employment records or things of that nature. I think if you look at things that are on the open intranet already, that would probably cover you, unless Al has other wisdom to share.
So we could just add those words that would clarify it, an open source search. Rebecca, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat what I said. I think if kind of to touch off on what Tasidra was saying earlier about, if somebody serves our community and they served it with honor while they were during their term, I think they need to be recognized. And also, my personal opinion is that discretion needs to be removed. It needs to be an automatic process. Get rid of this stupid appeals process. I think that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Us as a board abdicating our responsibility and pushing it off on a bureaucrat. No offense to you, Steve. You're not always going to be there. We don't know who's going to be there next. We don't know if they're going to be good, bad, ugly, what. They might be just fine, but I don't want something like this to be at the discretion where I, as a board member, have to appeal a bureaucrat's decision.
All right. It was your suggestion, Jim. Do you want to speak to it?
I personally feel, I'll say a bit like Colleen said, this is very all encumbersome. It's a lot longer than I ever pictured it was going to be. But I personally like the speed or how it could be. So I can tell you, I got a person on the committee that I was on that he came off a number of months ago. And I've been wanting to recognize him for his service. I'm sure there's other people too. But it'd be nice to have an expedited process. And that's what I look at, the proclamation and the certificate of recognition. That's something that the administrator can just kick off and be done in days or even hours. So I like that process for recognizing somebody. I hope that becomes a standard practice. And I think because of how quickly it can happen, hopefully it is a standard practice and we just have more of these things happening. But I think I am personally very cautious having that authority on a single person that's not elected. And that's where I like to have the appeal process. That if somebody disagreed for the administrator not doing something, that there's still a way to recognize the person for whatever reason. And again, nothing on Steve, but you don't know who's going to be the next person that might not agree with whatever our board might want.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No. All right, Abby.
Gosh, I feel like my brain's hurting because it's a lot to think about. I appreciate what Jim just said, and I think that clarifies that, helping to make this, even though it's a complicated document, that hopefully it would make the process smoother and quicker, and to recognize certain people or groups or service. And I personally don't have a problem with, it looks like the proclamations and certificates of recognition at the discretion of Steve or the village administrator. I guess I see it, I don't see him or whoever takes over in that role as a bureaucrat. I don't think we have any of those in Village Hall. But I see it, I don't, like, we're basically, the village board is basically the administrator's boss, and there's certain things that we can't or shouldn't get involved with if it's, kind of day-to-day operations. So there's that, but also, previous board and current board hired Steve. He continues in that role, and then we will choose who will take over for him. And that's, I think that essentially takes the discretion out of it, because we are choosing the person who we think will best enact our values and policies and whatnot. And if there are concerns, that's where the appeal process is, because people make mistakes or there's disagreement. I don't think if there's mistakes that there's necessarily nefarious intent. So even though it's kind of like headache inducing, looking at the document and thinking about all the details, I'm willing to give it a shot. And I don't think this is necessarily set in stone, that if it gets into effect and it's not working, or maybe we have the discretion of just modifying it or getting rid of it. And I guess a follow-up question I have is, do we have input from Steve or I'm just wondering
Lou,
what.
and I don't know if we got Steve's input, but we've had other staffs and inputs, so,
Okay.
and from Lou, so.
Okay, so it's not like a top-down kind of thing. Okay. And then I guess one friendly I would like to add, because I guess my big sticking point is the second paragraph on the first page. Resolutions, proclamations, certificates are not political statements or positions, commercial endorsements, or an interest group endorsements. And I guess I was a little confused about the political part, because we do resolutions that are political. Anything involving government is political, but I know some people interpret political as being partisan. And I'm wondering, does that statement just refer to recognition resolutions? Okay. I guess I'm just, so my friendly is, could we just add the word recognition in front of the word resolutions, just to make it clear? Because I'm just afraid, like, in the future, we'll want to have a resolution to communicate something to another government, and like, does that mean we can't do it because it's like political?
No.
But
All right.
yeah.
We have a motion. Is that acceptable to everyone?
I don't understand. As the maker of the motion, I don't get the recognition resolution. I think you just created another term. You mean formal resolution?
I guess because we have resolutions that do all kinds of things. I don't like this document's mostly talking about resolutions being used to recognize, people or groups or achievements. And so I guess that makes sense to me, that that's not political, and that all those not political statements or positions, commercial endorsements, or interest group endorsements, that all makes sense. But if you go outside the realm of recognition resolutions, like when we use resolutions to communicate our position as a board, those sometimes are political. And I just want to I guess that's why I wanted to put the word recognition resolutions, because we're talking about, we don't want those to be political, right?
I guess it doesn't matter to me. I don't see that sentence as really changing anything if it's in or out.
Okay. So, yep, and
So
Colleen's
I'm-
okay. So we
I'm
have
okay.
a motion and a second on the floor. I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. We need either a show of hands or a voice or a roll call.
Trustee Lingraff? Are we doing a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Trustee Lowry,
Aye.
trustee Little? Trustee Simpson,
Aye.
trustee Witherspoon,
No.
trustee Allen,
No.
President Cahill Wolfgram?
Aye. The noes have it.
It was 3-4. So did not pass.
Motion fails. All right. You can still do your, yeah. All right. Moving on. We did some things out of order. We have 7.3 discussion and action regarding the administrator position. There were some items in your packet. And they included the Village of DeForest Administrator Assessment results. I gotta pull this off. And there was both the village board and staff compiled together. And then the just those of the board. It was interesting to me that there was a fair amount of consistency in some of the items, and then obviously there were some that we had different thoughts on, but overall, I think there were not a lot of surprises, but I would ask if anyone had a question about the assessments and the compilation of those numbers. Rebecca?
Yeah, I was looking over the survey results and that were presented to us, and it seems like not all the results as far as like the comments and stuff like that were shared with us. And I, for one, would like to see all of the comments, not
I
just
think
the
that's
cherry.
all the comments there
Mm.
were.
Oh, no, I've got my comments here and they weren't on there. And so, which makes me think that other comments may not have been put on there as well. And it just feels a little bit like it may have been cherry picked. I'm not saying it was, it just feels like it was somewhat. I personally would like to see the full results. I don't need to know who said what.
You have results that aren't on here?
No, all we got was the compiled results. And some of the comments, not all of the comments.
Okay, anything that went to public administration
I know mine did.
came back here.
And my comments weren't on there at all. So I know at least some comments were missing.
Does anybody else feel like their comments weren't added? Mine were there, so.
Well, here's what I had said. I said to ensure a fair, equitable, and consistent process, there should be a baseline minimum required qualification of a bachelor's degree in a field of study related to this type of work. Once that baseline minimum required level of education is met, then other factors like verifiable experience related to this type of position would then come into play. And then I was looking over the actual job description, and it's preferred, not required, which I can't support it unless it says required.
Okay, well, we can discuss that in the next item, but if you don't think if your comments got out, we can send them,
Definitely did not get out.
send them back in again. But just so everyone else thinks their comments are there, that's my question. All right, there was also, and I've added some verbiage to it, but the draft script for the little video that's going to be done on Thursday. And that's, I don't think anything controversial, although I did add to it. They were looking for challenges. And I just added that DeForest is one of the fastest growing communities in Dane County and in Wisconsin. Managing the growth and development is a unique challenge that requires carefully balancing residential, commercial, and industrial growth. Same time, maintaining the amenities that make DeForest a wonderful place to live, work, and play. The new administrator will have many challenges and opportunities. One of those will be to address the needs of changing community demographics, including meeting workforce needs of local employers, housing and transportation, for example, meeting the housing and care needs of a growing number of seniors while balancing the capacity of emergency services and attracting commercial and retail businesses to serve the community and maintain opportunities for growth and expansion. So that will happen on Thursday. And it's just a couple-minute video that will be looked at and posted on the website here and on the website for Public Administration Associates. And then you have a copy of the position announcement draft. Notice the word draft. And we're looking at any comments that, and I don't know that we need to write them by committee. But if there are any specific comments that people want to address right now, we can do that. Bill?
Thought August 17th, we, as a group, decided job posting should have minimum standards. I thought we voted on that or thumbs up as a group. This doesn't carry through on that. PAA has a job listing for City of Cudahy. Kind of mirrors ours except for the requirements. I would prefer we take their 3 first sentences and replace our first 3 sentences. And it's very clear. Let me read what Cudahy. And this is, we've bumped the pay up. So I'm not sure why we've dumbed down the requirements. Cudahy requires bachelor's degree in public or business administration or related field. Prefer master's degree with 7 years of progressive municipal management experience, ICMA. Credential is a plus. I agree with residency should be encouraged. Very simple. I thought we agreed to all that, and I'm shocked that I see what's presented to us now.
You want to share a copy of that with Callie so she has it? I didn't get half of what you.
Yeah, I got it right here. I can give that to her when I run it over. Anybody else today, you can just Google it, City of Cudahy. It's city administrator, and it's gonna pop right up.
Other comments? You know, one of the things that, oh, Jim, did you have a comment?
My comment was on the script, so I don't know exactly what we're talking about right now.
We weren't right now, but if you want to send me comments on the script or offer them, we can get them added. Do you have something in general or something specific?
I guess more in general, I was looking at the last paragraph on the script. And to me, it seemed like a lot of feel-good language. I didn't know if that's stuff that, say, is coming from, say, HR at the village itself, or is that something that was just pulled from somewhere else?
The core values, just, that's from our program that we, and our values that we operate the village on, village staff.
That's what
Yeah,
I wanted
it's,
to
yeah,
make sure.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, good question. Okay, other, Rebecca?
Yeah, I would just, again, emphasize, reiterating what he was saying. We as a board did come to a pretty good majority consensus that it was a required baseline requirement for the educational aspect, not to be just preferred. And before we send this job description out, I think we need to fix that.
All right, Abby?
To be perfectly honest, I can't remember how we turned out on that discussion because there was so much back and forth. And I know I personally was going back and forth. So I think it's kind of harsh to say like that we had conclusive, I mean, unless somebody has, unless it's in the minutes or somebody has some, something clearly written in their notes they can show me, but I don't remember a definitive, like we were all saying, yes, we're putting down minimum requirement bachelor's degree. I think if we want to say that now, we can. And I don't think there's any nefarious intention going on. And I think there was a reference to like, well, we're saying bachelor's degree is preferred, but now the salary is higher. I also don't see as any bad intentions there. Those were two different discussions at two different meetings. And if we think now that we have a set salary range that we're considering, if we want to go back, and I don't think there's a problem right now. Because we're talking about the position announcement right now. I would just prefer if our discussion can stay focused on what we're doing right now. And if you have a certain position, advocate for that. But I don't think we necessarily need to go back and say that there was something bad intentions going on from previous meetings. There could have been miscommunication. There might have been, not remembering, because I personally don't quite remember where we came out on that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Otherwise, we can talk about those two details, but otherwise I thought the position announcement looked really nice, and I don't really have anything to add.
And I remember, like you did, Abby, I don't remember that we voted on. In fact, I think we punted it off to working with whoever we hired to fill out and help us do the position description and the qualifications, because we were just bantering it back and forth and not coming to resolution. Colleen, you had your hand up.
I don't mind the description the way it is at all, because I think more than one of us has probably met somebody who is really good at what they do, or we know would be really good at something, and for whatever reason, don't have. I guess this is 2021. We can't say we require a high school diploma. So we say a bachelor's degree or a minimum of whatever preferred. A lot of job descriptions are written with a combination of experience and whatever. And I don't want to hang our village administrator's position strictly on whether or not guy or woman has master's degree and, whatever, because that sometimes doesn't mean a thing. I think we're looking for a lot of qualities that sometimes are not found in people with all of those educational. I don't mean to generalize. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Let me make it personal here. I have a 2-year associate degree. I was commended for all of the time I was in the coroner's office on what a beautiful job I did with families and grief and dealing with all of that. But can I go get a job in the DA's victim witness unit, helping these same families that I helped for 10 years? No, because I don't want to BS behind my name, because I didn't want to sit still for 4 years. So that's my bottom line. You can be good at something and not have the letters behind your name.
That's right. And I think that one of the issues is we have a very tight job market and we're looking to get a good candidate pool. And we may have people who have degrees and we may have people who have a combination of education and experience that in fact could be very good at doing the job and have very good leadership skills and have experience that make them good candidates for this job. And I would hate to see us be narrow-minded in our approach, that we don't get those candidates to apply and come before us. I think it's important that we be as open as we can. Steve?
Yeah, I guess I'll agree with that. You are the ultimate decision makers on who you interview and what salary you set or negotiate with these people. You're the ultimate say in this. So I don't think it matters, as long as you're fishing in the right waters, trying to get some candidates here that can do the job that you want them to do. And I don't know that you even done that. I think that's where we left off at the last discussion. We weren't really, we were working on a job description and we were trying to roll that into this transmittal or, the type of people we're looking for. And that's where it got hung up.
Yeah.
I still think you folks are in the ultimate authority of who you hire. Get the people in here in a tough market to see who you like and set the salary accordingly. So you're still in the driver's seat no matter what this says.
And I think my goal with the position announcement is to get the candidates in. Bill?
Yeah, there's a YouTube. We can, go home tonight and look at it. I'm pretty sure we decided on that. There's also 5 more job listings currently for administrators just in the immediate area, Wisconsin. They all run the same. Why is ours different? Why is the wording different? I agree, yeah, but to be fair and consistent to all the applicants, this is what they're going up against on every job listing. Minimum and preferred. If preferred to have a master's, if they don't have a master's, that's fine. Maybe they have 10 years of good experience at something, but state job listings, they all have minimum requirements.
Some of them do.
Well, the ones that pay 120,000 to start do. So why are we different than all these rest? I just don't understand.
And I think the reason to be different is to keep our candidate pool open. Jim, you had your hand up.
I guess I just was gonna state my opinion. I personally like the word preferred. I know too many people with my profession. I do have the bachelor's degree, but I work with a lot of consultants, and there's many consultants that I trust to build the highways for us that don't have the PE behind their name. And they do a tremendous job, better than a lot of the other PEs. So I don't personally see the need for the bachelor's degree. I think the experience that somebody gets after school can equal that. And I don't want to limit our pool. I worry that we aren't going to get enough candidates as it is. But if for instance, we do get a lot of candidates, maybe that's our first cut. We just like, okay, who's got a bachelor's degree, and we cut everybody that doesn't. But I feel we need to at least get it out there and get as many candidates as we can.
Thank you. All right. Tashina?
I think if we're going to look at education, most employers look at years of experience as well and what they bring to the table with their years of experience. I can guarantee you, I may have a nurse with a BSN and she's only been in practice for a year. I will take an ADN any day if she's been in the field for 10 years, because there's something about experience, both life, professional, and you get a lot of education, more than what the books can teach you. With that being said, I am a higher ed educator as well. And so I have taught at the technical, the ADN, the 2-year and 4-year BSN program. And granted, I'm talking about nursing. And so this is like life or death, not, budgeting, but that's equally important. So I think we should address years of experience as well. And I do think, addressing the educational level is important because it speaks to the notion that we do value education and higher education and the years you put in to learn and become more of an expert in your field. But I do think we need to give some type of onus or acknowledgement to years of experience because there's a lot gained in that and where they got that experience, of course.
Okay, and does the line that starts out prefer progressively responsible administrative or leadership experience? And then the following lines to talk about demonstrate accomplishments, does that do it for you or?
For the purposes of getting people in the door, that is a very general statement that could mean a lot. So I guess you would have to really speak to what does that mean? I mean, when I look at things, degrees, certificates, experience, especially with, a line item of 120K, I would know where have you spent the last 15 years doing that? I mean, there's a huge difference with the level of management and experience and ownership and autonomy that you have with that. So if the goal of this document, and that's what I really want clarification on, if the goal of this document is to put it out there as a filler to get as many candidates as we can, and then we as a committee, a board or whomever, really funnel it down to the best applicants, then okay. But if this is the governing document that we're going to use as to whether or not we're going to hire someone, then no. But if this is just a generalized, let's get it out there, get people in so that we can really interview them, because you could have all the experience in the world and be not the best fit for the Village of DeForest. So there's still a lot of autonomy and leeway that we have as a board. So to answer your question in summation, that is a very generalized statement that could mean anything. Leadership experience. I could have been the manager at McDonald's and that is technically leadership experience. I could have been a lead teacher at a daycare. That is still leadership experience. So we just got to be careful with the words and the jargon that we use.
Right, and I think adding the words that are here in a municipal organization also helps to narrow it down. And my clarification would be in talking with Kevin, this is a document to get people in the door. This is not our screening assessment hiring criteria. Abby, you had your hands up.
Yeah, I think that's related to what you just said, that I feel like right now, I personally don't feel a strong need to scrutinize at this step in the process. I think the scrutiny really needs to happen once we get a group of finalists and really look at those backgrounds, what, accomplishments, history, personality, trying to make sure it's a good mesh with our community and our village government. I think that's where the scrutiny really needs to come in. I personally think I said this before, I think it's fine how it's written. It's going to get as much people as possible that have relevant experience, but not sift out, too many people that still would be possibly a good fit that they would still apply. And then we later can scrutinize and whittle it down. I think that's where the scrutiny really needs to come in.
The caveat I want to put on there is I hope we figure that out sooner than later. I would hate to label our village as the bait and switch, right? That we put it out there that we're looking for this, and then when they get here, we change it. So I think we really need to think about the wording and what we want and what we're trying to go for. Because I think that too could set us up when we want to hire more people, that we're known as the village that puts things out because we want to get as many people as possible, but we really change things up. So I personally appreciate the discussion that we've had tonight. I think it's very informative. And I think we just need to drum down the words and the process that we want and make it clear what our expectations are.
Okay. Jim?
I just want to bring up an idea that I've seen on other position descriptions or whatever, where I've seen it labeled as a good candidate would have this qualification. It doesn't say that it's required, but it gives somebody food for thought when they see a good candidate would have, say, 10 years of experience. That then they could start the gauge like, well, do I have 10 years of experience? Or do I have 8 and I can make it up in this way? And the same thing, a good candidate would have a bachelor's degree.
Okay. All right. Bill?
I just want to reiterate our job posting, City of Cudahy posting, the same firm, the same person. Why is the language different? I talked to Kevin yesterday and really didn't get a good answer. And like I said, 99.9% of the job that postings go along this line, even different companies. The same thing. But if you want to go with that, I'm fine screening the candidates later. But like I said, would you rather have 40 or 50 people of all? I suppose you would. The bigger net. Go ahead.
Colleen?
I would make a motion to approve the position announcement as written.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Roll call vote, please.
All right. Kelly?
Trustee Lowry,
Aye.
trustee Little, trustee Simpson, trustee Witherspoon,
No.
trustee Allen,
I abstain at this time because we have not defined anything that I was speaking towards.
trustee Langraf,
No.
President Cahill Wolfgram.
Aye.
We have a 4-1. Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. We swam through that one. I think got all of the items. And Rebecca, if you get me the language you think is missing, well, it should be on what you sent me before, right? Your comments for the assessment. Yeah, I think you sent it to me already. Well, you can hand it to me. I'll just make sure that it's sent to Kevin. Maybe it didn't show on the back of the page, but I will get it to him.
The way I said it was just
One continuous.
one.
All right, well, we'll follow through. All right, we've gotten through that one. Code of Conduct, 8.1. There was a request to put a discussion on regarding Code of Conduct, and so we have done that. And I would open the floor for comments. Colleen?
I would like to recommend that we eliminate the code of conduct since it's not followed anyway.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am, I make a motion that we eliminate the code of conduct.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would actually second that because I've suffered twice now from 2 different trustees attacking me publicly. And I found out this was totally unenforceable.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'd just like to say that that's pretty subjective we'll leave it at that.
All right. Any further comment or discussion? Abby?
Well, I'm probably gonna vote no. I kind of have an alternative idea. Maybe I'll bring it up. Well, I guess depending on what happens with this vote, I may or may not bring it up, but my idea is, like, I'm thinking of the code of conduct. It's been basically the same since I've been on the board, which hasn't been like too long, but several years, 2017. And as I don't think it's been modified since then, and I don't know if or when it was modified since it was first created. And I'm not too sure how it originated or who it originated with. And not that that's relevant, but I guess I bring that up because I wonder if we want to have a code of conduct that is created from scratch every, time that we have a new member. And I bring up that idea because thinking back from when I was a teacher that, or any time that there's like a group activity, you come up with your own group norms, basically, your guidelines for behavior or conduct. And it's not necessarily like enforceable, like you're not going to punish for somebody for not following it, but that it's a living document that's created by that group. So there's more investment for people to go along with it. So I guess that's why I'm voting no on this. And I'm one of the trustees that it's claimed that I attacked. I'm not sure if that's the word. And I don't regret it. I did it in my capacity as a private citizen and community member exercising my First Amendment right. There are consequences to expressing your First Amendment right, and I knew it when I did it. But I felt it in my heart that it was right. And possible consequences are it could come out at election time if or when I'm on the ballot again. It could come in with certain people having certain opinions of me or expressing their First Amendment rights. And I'm totally fine with taking those consequences. It has nothing to do with village business. My opinion had nothing to do with village business, had nothing to do, it was during my private time, a private setting. So, and if anyone
right.
would like to see what I said.
Far field of the question.
It wasn't
Call
private.
question.
All right, we've called for the question. All those in favor of eliminating the code of conduct signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay,
Motion oh, did you say nay?
I did.
Okay, so we're dealing with 5-2. Motion carries. All right. Now, the patient gentleman in the back, we're moving to presentation of ordinances. Ordinance 2021-027, an ordinance to adopt amendments to the future land use map in the comprehensive plan of the Village of DeForest affecting Bear Tree Farms West, land southeast of Highway 51 Windsor Road interchange in the Village of DeForest. Mark.
You have several items on your agenda tonight that relate to the Bear Tree Farms development. This is the first of those. This item would adjust the comprehensive plan of the village to correspond with the development proposal that's before you tonight for rezoning certified survey map. This is more of a movement of different future land uses in this area rather than a wholesale change to the plan. The plan has for a number of years identified the Bear Tree Farms West area southeast of Highway 51 and Windsor Road interchange for a mix of different housing development with commercial close to the Windsor Road Highway interchange. This wouldn't change that. It would just rearrange those types of uses. The proposal would identify a location in the center as appropriate for future parks and recreation type use that relates to the park proposal you have before you today. The resolution or the ordinance in your packet, ordinance 2021-027, would amend the comprehensive plan subject to a few conditions that kind of link the plan approval, plan amendment approval to the continued progress on the development proposal going forward. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
And let me just say, I don't know, Al wanted to speak as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out for the board that there was discussion earlier during the public hearing that this relates to the ball field proposal. I just want to make sure everybody understands these ordinances do not address the ball field proposal or affect it either way. These are just land use approvals that allow for the different types of private development and some potential recreational development on that ball field site that as it's been identified.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, and one clarification, it was said that P and Z was supportive of the ball diamonds. Is that actually an action they took, or was it just support of the land use for such a use?
It's the latter. The Planning and Zoning Commission made a recommendation on a comprehensive plan amendment, a rezoning and a certified survey map that enables the ball field proposal to go forward if the board were to choose to do so. The Planning and Zoning Commission, and Jim can certainly comment on this better than me, did not take any action on the ball field, whether the village ought to accept it as a public or private venture at all.
Okay. Are there questions from the board on this ordinance? Abby?
I guess I just wanted to communicate, I'm very excited about this development and having a pocket neighborhood with smaller lots and make it the affordability that ensues. So I really appreciate everybody's work on that. And I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, and I need to make sure I write this down because or if I wrote it down somewhere, I lost it. But can you remind me of like roughly the sales price for those?
I cannot.
I spoke to this briefly last time I was here. Like George, I'm the broker for the Bear Tree West property. Initially, we were really trying hard. I think last time I spoke before, prices got way out of control. We were actually initially trying to keep them under 300. We had some different plans, but every time we make them nicer, and the lumber goes up, they get higher. Right now, it's over 300. But we're trying to keep it between 3 and 3.25, which unfortunately sounds expensive, but for new homes, it's actually, according to Keith Homes and other builders, that's at the affordable end of starter housing. But we're gonna do everything we can to keep them as they are, but you had mentioned you're a teacher, I think earlier comments, and that was one of our, yeah, it used to be. That was one of the things to keep the teachers in the community, to try to people starting, nurses or those starting out their careers, trying to have a place for them. It's gonna be very nice, hopefully a little kitschy, but we're excited about it. We have a lot of people interested in it. So I think it'll be a great product, and we definitely want to keep it on the low end. Any other questions?
Thank you, Blake. And just to reiterate, as I remember, we have the MWF apartments, we have the Churchill condos. These would be the single family houses. So there's a lot of variety of prices and opportunities in the area.
A couple of new notes. You have commercial people very serious looking at 2 of the lots, and then so we get that. And then we actually have potentially an offer on the rezoning. So we could have everything done. Maybe the last time you ever see us.
Great. Thank you. Steve?
Just a couple comments. I like the development and what it's bringing, but I just want to make sure the board is clear that for the single family, any of this, the pricing isn't set by any of the agreements you're going to see tonight. So they can do whatever they want with it. But what they're offering, I think, makes sense.
Thank you. Colleen?
I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-027.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Rebecca? It'll cost you. No. Go ahead. We'll take a 3 to 4 minute break and then reconvene.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi, Brandy.
Hello.
Brandy, are you any better?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But just pushing through.
Abby, will you shout out the door at people?
Sorry.
Callie, will you bring the tray of snacks out? The tray of destruction.
Ooh, where'd you?
All right, we're gonna get started.
By the way, thank you.
Not good to have a problem in white pants.
I was about ready to jump around in my seat.
Jim,
Jumps.
Bill, Colleen, okay. Are you ready?
We're missing Bill. We're missing Bill.
He's slow. He's
Oh, there
coming.
he's coming.
All right, we're moving on to 9.2. This is ordinance 2021-028, an ordinance to rezone from the B2 General Business District to the RM4 Residential Mixed Multifamily Housing District, the 1.6 acre parcel, as noted, and from the A1 Agricultural District to the RM-4 C1 Conservancy and the PUD Planned Unit Development Districts, 26.5 acres in parcels as noted, and with the 8.8 acre PUD district proposed in conjunction with a preliminary development plan for 45 lot single family subdivision, all southeast of the Highway 51 Windsor Road interchange within Bear Tree Farms West development. Mark?
To approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Mark?
Sorry, if I could just mention one thing. There is an ordinance later on your agenda that would adjust the C1 zoning district. That was the subject the gentleman spoke of, the two mics earlier. And the part of the proposal is to rezone land to C1, and the predominant piece would be the 7 to 8 acres that's designated for the ball field. The applicants expressed an interest in making sure that that ball field could either be public or private under the rules of the C1 zoning district as we were proposing to amend it. And we had a discussion about that at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and that very subject. And while P&Z didn't direct me to do anything in particular, it was a good point raised that, you know, whether the park is run by the or owned by the village or run by some nonprofit organization, if it's kind of quacks like a duck, that it would be allowed within the C1 zoning district. So when we get to that ordinance later, I'm going to be recommending a tweak along the lines of what the two mics have asked for to kind of confirm that intent. But this ordinance, if approved, would actually constitute the rezoning of the land to C1. So I thought I'd bring it up now as opposed to waiting until later.
Thank you, Mark. Rebecca?
So just so I understand, by doing this, it allows that to happen whichever way is chosen.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
With the change, yeah, with the change that I'm going to be recommending when we get to that item 9.4 on the agenda.
okay. Any further discussion? Jim?
So I want to just clarify and I'll wait till my. So I think going from the old C1 to the new C1, there was, the old C1 had a term, I think, commercial, if I remember right, that we removed that. And I brought it up as a point of discussion to make sure that we weren't like eliminating, say, the private versus public. And that was our understanding at the planning and zoning, and that we just want to make sure that it's still the same understanding at the board, that it doesn't matter if it's run by public or private, it's the same facility. And I think if I remember right, it was the word commercial that we took out. It wasn't necessarily public or private, I think.
Right. The current C1 zoning district talks of non-commercial athletic fields, which I felt was a challenging kind of term, an undefined term. And so trying to get at that, in a slightly different way as we'll talk about it as a facility that's open to the public, rather than counting whether someone's making money off a hot dog or not.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
all right. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. 9.3, ordinance 2021-029, and ordinance approving a certified survey map dividing 26.5 acres in current parcels as noted into 2 lots and 2 outlots southeast of the Highway 51 Windsor Road interchange in the Bear Tree Farms West development.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or comment? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 9.4, and this is the one where you're going to recommend something. Ordinance 2021-030, an ordinance repealing and recreating the C1 Conservancy District within Chapter 15 of the DeForest Municipal Code. Go, Mark.
So I'm looking at ordinance 2021-030, and at the bottom of page 1 of that ordinance, it's also, PDF page 92 of your packet. There's a section, subsection 2, permitted uses, and then subsection C under that, where it says parks, trails, athletic fields, et cetera. When this was before P and Z, it read public parks, et cetera, et cetera. And what I did in response to the comment that Jim and I were talking about is remove the word public from the front of that sentence and changed it to parks, trails, athletic fields, play fields, and playgrounds that are open to the public. With, trying to respond to the comment and open up that ability to use C1 zone lands for, whether it was owned or not. What I did not do, and what the Mike's commented on, is read all the way to the 4th line where it says commonly associated with such public facilities. I think what should be done is the word public in that fourth line of sub C ought to be removed.
Al?
Just looking at the ordinance in that context, I wonder whether or not the last word public in that paragraph should also be removed, where it refers to golf courses.
Do we have a motion yet? I can't remember.
We do.
Do we need a friendly for that, or can we?
Oh,
just
do
go
we,
off of
we don't
that?
have a motion
don't
on
have a
this. No,
motion.
we do not.
I would say, I would move then that we pass ordinance 2021-030 with the proposed amendments.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Abby?
I was just wondering, like, looking between the old ordinance and the new ordinance, I was wondering, so the old ordinance under subsection G says municipal facilities and uses, including recreational buildings and community centers, provided such buildings shall be located not less than 50 feet from any lot in a residential district. Is that included in the new ordinance? And if not, if it's not, why is it not?
The uses are included and continue to be allowed within the new ordinance. The sort of exceptional setback is not. When we had a chance to look at the C1 district and its to deal with this particular issue that we're talking about, we also had a chance to think about it and the way it's being used in many different locations, including across the street here at the athletic complex and in other locations. And felt that a mandatory 50-foot setback from a residential district for any building, regardless of its size, seemed a little bit excessive. So our recommendation is to lean instead on the regular setbacks and the fact that any site plan proposed for a public park or would be prepared by the village, and any proposal for a private recreational facility would be subject to a site plan review by the village anyway, that we would be able to get at concerns with neighbors and deal with it through landscaping requirements and other things that the village has.
And I was wondering, just to make sure I understand, are parks always in the C1 Conservancy District, or are there other options?
We've typically tried to zone them in that zoning district, but I can't say that every single park is zoned that way. A couple might be zoned residential still, but we try to assign that district to parks and stormwater areas and other things. Just, I guess, reinforce the range of uses and the relatively limited range of uses, but also I think, especially with this ordinance amendment, to recognize that there are different activities that happen in parks, community events, rentals, other things that are sort of incidental to the fundamental park use. And we wanted to try to acknowledge that in the amendment. But it is the district we've applied to parks in new developments, certainly.
Do communities ever have two different designations depending on if the land is used for recreation versus nature conservancy kind of thing?
Yeah, yes, that's another option. This is sort of a hybrid approach that, connotes that it's, going to be set aside generally for open space uses, but, there are communities that have environmental corridor zoning districts, for instance, that kind of correspond with the CARPC definition of the term. Sometimes it's a base zoning district like R1 or RN1 or something like that. Sometimes it's an overlay zoning district, but I think there's a range of approaches. I don't know if you've looked at the DeForest zoning code, but there's a lot of zoning districts. And so whenever we're kind of confronted with that question, we say, well, can we get by with fewer, I think it's the Jason Kramer principle. In support of an ordinance, I'm half joking, if it had fewer words in it than the previous version of it. But I think there is some merit. We do have a lot of zoning districts, and I think in this case, having one that covers both does a pretty good job of it. And I think more importantly, making sure that we're mapping that district over areas that are either conservancy or park. Because in the past, sometimes they were kept in residentially zoned or other things because that's what the land around it was zoned. So I think we're doing a good job of signaling those spaces better.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Presentation of resolutions. 10.1, Resolution 2021-086, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for use of the Madison Police Training Facility. Chief Olson.
Yep, so the agreement's in the package. It's just an updated, we've been operating with Madison PD to use their range and critical training facilities for some years. It's updated, they updated the fee structure, which for rental, and I don't see it as anything more than adjustment for additional fees for cleaning and things of that nature.
Questions for the chief? Colleen?
Oh, I don't have a question for him. I was just going to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 10.2, Resolution 2021-087, a resolution approving a contract with architectural design consultants for design and construction administration services for renovations at the DeForest Public Safety Building. Judd and Greg? Greg.
Yeah, so we're looking, we've got a agreement, a proposal in front of you for renovating the fire department addition and also the interior kitchen, living room area. Looking to go with ADCI, who we've worked with on past projects, public services building 2 years ago. The inspections of Village Hall and Police Department after these were renovated. And we're currently working with them on the library, fire shutters as well, trying to get a variance for those. So I'd like to move forward with EDCI, if you guys allow it.
Okay,
I would move that we approve this.
okay. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Al?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the board aware that, by approving this resolution and this contract, the village will be on the hook for the design costs for this renovation. At present, you don't have any agreement for the lease of that space or any contribution to the cost. So if you go ahead with this, you're basically risking that money that, you may not ultimately have the money to construct or the lease in place to pay for that construction.
I might just add, being on the committee though, that I think we had a pretty clear agreement with Bob Whipperforth and the members of the board, fire board, that that these costs would need to be covered as part of the lease fees. But that's true. It's also true that we've all talked through the fact that we need to pay for these costs and negotiate the rent accordingly. Colleen's also on the fire board. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Bill, Rebecca, did you have-
That was probably my only concern is it's our building and we lease it. I would feel more comfortable seeing an agreement with Windsor, but hopefully it will go through, but I would like to see an agreement for us. Any idea on what the cost of this is going to be?
The architectural fees are.
Oh, the building, the addition.
With design, it's we're estimating at 750,000.
Okay. I just remember 15 years ago they were going to do this and should have done it then. But,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Okay, Rebecca.
One of the thoughts that I've been having, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I'm just wondering, I don't know that we've seen the data behind getting this funded. I know that it seems like I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like as far as services go, we've got more need related to EMS than we do specifically for fire. So I guess I'm just wondering a little bit in terms of that aspect. And I'm not sure I'm quite asking my question right, but I guess I'm wondering, because this seems to be more related to fire, or am I incorrect on that? Is this more related to EMS or is it more related to fire?
It's both.
It's both, yeah.
Yeah.
The,
There's a lot of fire and EMS personnel that don't live in DeForest anymore. So everybody has to sleep at the station. And there's currently 5 rooms, and I'm bunking up with other people, maybe 3 to a room sometimes. So this is where, now that we're going to 24-hour shifts, we're gonna have 2 more full-time employees staying there, plus volunteers. For some odd reason, we can't get residents to join, that live in DeForest, to join the fire department. Not very many of them. We do have some.
So then just to make sure I'm understanding what I moved to approve, this is for renovating the existing building. This is not related to that new potential facility. Is that correct?
that's correct. This is just for renovating this and
Okay. I was a little hazy on that.
It is expanding the building, our building.
Right.
Nothing to do with Windsor's future facility.
Then I guess I'm confused with what you were trying to say there a minute ago about the funding aspect. If you could clarify that.
The current arrangement is that the fire district leases the building from the village. Village built the building, designed it, and it leased it to the fire district. So that's a combination of contributions from Windsor, Forest, and a couple of contracted municipalities. Right now, there's no lease that covers that additional space. And so what you're doing here is you're investing, looks like about $111,000 in the design of this space with no contractual assurance that you will ever lease that space to anyone. That's the point I was making.
So then do we need to, I guess I did not understand that part of it. I was assuming, call me blonde, but I was assuming that would have been incorporated within that lease.
Well, it hasn't been addressed yet, and part of it is a chicken and egg kind of thing. We don't know how much a building is going to cost. So we don't know how much it costs to amortize until we have the design work done. So there is, like I say, a chicken and egg sort of a problem. The point that I was making is that just so that you recognize you're doing this on trust to some extent, that Windsor will go along with this agreement and, agree to pay its fair share of the cost of this renovation. I know there are things that can be negotiated. I don't know how those negotiations will go. But you're doing this, what I'm suggesting is you're doing this somewhat on trust.
Steve had his hand up and then Jim.
Yeah, well, we're doing it on trust for the design work too, the architect. We have nothing that says the fire district will reimburse us for that either. It'd be nice if they could. That would kind of set the table for, how are we going to be able to negotiate these? And I mean, they could decide to not build it there just as easily, and we're out $132,000.
Then should we maybe make that discussion before we go forward?
I'd like to suggest we've been having that discussion at the fire board. I mean, I think the fire board's very aware that these costs will be incorporated as soon as we know them into the rent. I also am concerned that until we do the design work, we can't really move forward and understand what the costs are going to be. And so we're starting to have those negotiations. I'm also concerned about our firefighters and our EMS who, we've taken office space, we've cut the kitchen space back, we've taken the recreation space. We have people during COVID sleeping 3 together and in a closet. People need their offices back, and people need to be able to sleep comfortably. We have one women's bathroom and one men's bathroom with a shower. People are tripping over each other. So, well, I appreciate the risk. I also appreciate the need and would like to see us do the design work. Jim?
I guess a lot of that is what I was gonna reiterate too, is I've got friends or know people that are fire and EMS in different other communities, and really your sleeping quarters and your living space, that's a huge recruiting tool. And that's limiting us right now. And I think the 111 or 130, whatever, is really what we need to take on as our risk so we can move forward, because we don't know, we're estimating 750,000, but maybe prices will go up again and it'll be 900,000, but, or maybe it goes to 500, let's hope for that. But we need to get something figured out so we can renegotiate the lease. And I hope that we try to recover the design costs when we renegotiate the lease. I'm sure we're gonna attempt to do that. But I think it's important for the recruiting. I mean, it's still gonna take whatever, a year or two to get it all built, but at least they'll have a design that they can look forward to. And then Chief Lefevre can hopefully get people in the door again. And the other point that I wanted to make that's a side topic is I had a bit of a conversation with Greg this morning that I was a bit concerned having a single source for the design, but I've worked through that with talking about our architects, and I think that is a good choice for ADCI. I think in the future, I would like to have a couple bids when we do this. I don't know if there's a level when we go to multiple bids, but I'm for moving forward at this point and really for the betterment of the fire district.
Okay.
Just one other thing. I actually am for it too. I guess just I'm playing the devil's advocate. Worst case scenario, we end up footing the bill. Do we have that ability?
The quick answer is yes. Now footing the bill for the design. Yeah. We have fire impact fees or public safety impact fees that we've collected surpasses this amount. We have other opportunities out there as well. And actually there's a separate reserve fund for that building that we could possibly tap into. I don't think there's any restrictions against that use. It's village controlled. So I'm all for this project. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it does impact getting volunteers or people in there. I just don't understand why we wouldn't try to cover the village. Even while the project is going on, we try in the next month to get even a motion from the fire district saying they're going to make the village whole. That would be nice.
Well, we meet Wednesday, Colleen?
Yeah. That's my main concern is that one worst case scenario, we do have the ability to suck it up if we have to, but that eventually we're going to get that covered. I mean, as a mother of a former firefighter and EMT here in town, I totally get the need here. So, I'm all for it. I wanted to make sure that I was very clear about what was going on.
Thank you. Abby?
I think we already have a motion, a second, right?
Yep.
Could we possibly add a friendly to say that we approve this contract on condition of a motion from the fire board that, I'm not sure what the phrasing is.
I was thinking of within a month. I mean, the project can commence, but if we don't have something within a month, we're going to be out something. They're going to do some level of work. But at least it can proceed, if that makes sense. So within a month, we have some sort of either a motion from the fire district board saying they're going to commit to this. And then we can just keep going with the contract. If we don't have something, now, if you got a meeting tomorrow, you don't have this on the agenda.
There's an update, I believe. I have to look at the agenda, but I think there's an update on the fires board. I'd have to check.
So that's something you folks, and it's your motion or your friendly.
Or
so-
could I add the friendly and if you, the two people,
I would be open to that friendly.
Does the friendly have a time on it? Steve suggested a month. I worry about that myself.
a month?
I don't know if that's
Al?
long enough.
I guess I'm just thinking of simple solutions here, and I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to have the fire district share the risk that this building is not going to go forward. That, you know, the bids come back at $28 million and you decide, we're not going to do it at this time, we're going to do something else. A simple agreement with Windsor that says that if for whatever reason, this amount is not worked into a future lease arrangement in terms of, payback, that Windsor will reimburse its proportionate share of this cost, the same proportion that the parties commit to the fire district. That's a fairly simple agreement, and I think that would provide, all the protection you need. Then you're risking your share of that, they're risking their share of that. But in reality, it should all work itself out in the wash with the new lease ultimately. That's just an idea.
Yep. Okay. I could certainly talk with Bob about that.
I just question, I guess I may be questioning, you keep mentioning Windsor. I know they're the other major player, but isn't there 2 or 3 other entities? And we say everybody?
Windsor and DeForest are the only 2 voting members. There are 3 municipalities going down to 2 pretty soon that contract with the district. So they don't have any part of the lease. They just pay a fee for the service.
Okay.
You do have a station remodel on Old Business at Fire Board meeting tomorrow night.
Say again, I'm sorry,
You do have the station remodel and Old Business tomorrow.
on the
night.
agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we can work to get a motion.
Yes, I just agree with Al, and I thank you for bringing that point up. I just think it's fair and equitable that both municipalities share the risk. With that being said, I know our members need it, but I also know that we need to share the responsibility. So I agree with you, your addition, Al, and Abby, you're friendly. So hopefully it's accepted.
Good. Okay. Well, Colleen and I will be there tomorrow, so we will work on getting a motion from the fire board, and we'll get some language and meet with Bob over getting an agreement with Windsor. Bill, did you have your hand?
Oh, no, we have a motion on the floor with a friendly, and I think you're looking for. Did you make the motion?
I made the motion.
Main motion?
I made the main motion.
So we're good?
So
Do we need clarification further
I think what I heard is clarification, is that it was a month to have.
to get that?
Right.
That, whatever.
all right, we have
What he said.
a motion, a second. Is everyone ready to vote?
We have the friendly with it
The friendly.
Yes,
is
with
in
the friendly.
motion.
for a month?
For the month to get what Al was saying.
Thank you.
Can I ask Callie to read the motion with the friendly?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear a word you said.
I would like the clerk, the deputy clerk to read the motion with the second. The thing you guys are voting on.
Just a test to see if you're awake over there.
I have to approve an agreement with Windsor to share the risk. And then.
Within 30
month.
days. Within 30 days.
That's the friendly. So the motion is on approving the contract.
Yeah, the motion
Friendly
is
was
to
to-
approve resolution 2021-087. And then the friendly is the language that we added.
And to get the agreement from Windsor to share the risk.
Right.
Within 30 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think. Are you writing that up?
It's a lot simpler.
She's typing as we're going.
Can you repeat that for me?
The motion is, the motion is to approve the resolution as written, but to also, within 30 days, secure an agreement with Windsor to share the risk. Did I say that correct?
Al?
I think
Their proportion.
the question is whether or not this approval is conditioned on that.
Yes.
Um, And that's fine if that's what you want to do, but there was some suggestion that maybe they can start the design work in the meantime, which would mean this isn't really conditioned on that agreement.
Then how do we do this?
Can I,
Judd?
What I think I heard was that you could start the work, but if we didn't have a commitment from the fire board, it wasn't an agreement, because I don't think you can get an agreement done in a month. But if you had a commitment from them that they would partake in that, then we would continue on, or we could pull the plug after that if we don't have that commitment. So we'd be out some money for whatever ADCI had already accomplished for us, but then it would be limited versus the full 132 if we're not getting that buy-in from the fire board.
What he just said.
The good news is she has this on tape. I said, the good news is you have this recorded. Mhm. Al?
Technical difficulties.
I don't recall offhand, and I'm not seeing it in the agreement, whether or not this agreement allows us to terminate it. So I guess I would suggest that the motion be to approve the resolution contingent upon our ability to terminate further work under the contract if there is no agreement with Windsor within the next 30 days for an equitable cost sharing. That gives us the ability to, if it's not in the contract, go back to the architect and say, we need to add this provision that lets us stop you from doing more work over the next 30 days. And I'm sure that's something we can work out with them.
Okay.
Good with that.
Steve?
The clarification is now the friendly is an agreement with Windsor, not necessarily the fire district. Just so we're all the same, on the same page. That means it goes through Windsor board, not the fire board.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just making sure they're aware of what they're.
Hampton Leads is no part of it. It's Windsor.
So let me see if I'm understanding this. Motion is to approve the contract contingent on our ability to terminate the contract should we not be able to secure a commitment from the Windsor board for their proportionate share of the risk. Did I get that right?
I think so.
Yes.
That's 30 days.
Yeah, within 30 days.
And I just want to clarify too, that the cost of design is likely to be amortized into a lease arrangement.
It's
Not
just
saying they have to agree to pay cash, we're going to pay for it. But if we don't have a lease agreement, then they would have to reimburse us some money. That's the
Right.
idea.
Right, but we don't see this as them writing a check. We see this as them paying their proportion of the lease and just, I was somewhat relieved when I heard Bob say, we understand our rent is proportions going up.
Jim, did that work for you?
I was just gonna ask that. Thank you.
No, you were the second, weren't you?
Colleen was the second.
Oh, Colleen was the second. I apologize. I got confused.
Were you okay with that language? All right, I'm gonna call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Mhm. All right, resolution 2021-088, a resolution approving a memorandum of agreement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for improvements to State Highway 19 and Williamsburg Way. Al,
I'm going to ask that the board just postpone action on this. I still have some concerns with the language of the proposal. I sent some comments back to the DOT last week. Have not heard back from them, but there are literally some sentences in here that don't make any sense. And I'm trying to get clarification on what they're shooting for. So we're not going to get construction done this year anyway, so there's no rush on it. I'd suggest we just postpone it until we hear back from them.
okay. All right, we never object to a shorter agenda. Communications, the check register was in your material, committee, commission, and board reports. Were in your packet. Administrators report, Steve?
Nothing to report.
All right. Any updates regarding the library bill?
We're meeting on Thursday.
Good. Public safety, Tashidra,
Nothing to report. We meet next week.
community and senior center,
Same, nothing to report. We meet next week.
CDA. Nothing really new to report. Yeah, we missed you. Yeah, we were sorry. All right, fire and EMS district, I think we just talked about it, unless you had something else, Colleen. We meet tomorrow. The only thing that I wanted to note under the president's report, you all get the DCCVA stuff, so I'm not going to go through any of that, but mask extension is to November 5th. I think most people saw that. So in Dane County, I know it is the only county in the state. So we will probably continue with our mask. And I would entertain move into a roll call vote to go into closed session.
I make a motion to move into closed session via roll call.
Second.
What? On what?
Closed session.
I'm sorry, who second?
I did. Sure.
I said it. She second.
I missed that part. I thought it was sure.
Okay. It's all right. I've taken it on and off all night.
Okay, roll call vote to go into close. Trustee Little. Trustee Simpson. Trustee Witherspoon.
Aye.
Trustee Allen. Trustee Lingraff.
Aye.
Trustee Lowry.
Bye.
President Cahill Wolfgram.
Aye,
Motion carries.
here we go.
All right, I'll get you.
I'm eating potato chips. All right. I don't think we have any action resulting from close. So any other business that lawfully comes before the board? Rebecca?
Just one little thing. I keep forgetting to ask this question either via email or in person. Is there any way we can get the ordinances up to date online? They're really out of date. I don't know what is involved in getting that up to date.
In the budget for next year.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Bill?
Just a quick question with all this fire department stuff. Looking it up, there's no annual report after 2018. Do you know
What was the question? Start over.
the fire department annual report?
Yeah,
You can only see 2018 and then
we had one just 2 weeks ago.
you're looking on the wrong spot.
Did you look on the fire board's website?
Yeah. And this just shows 2018, I believe.
I'll send you the new one.
Okay, thanks. That's all I got. Yeah, it's on there. Oh, okay.
Okay. Abby?
I was just gonna share quick, I mean, most of you probably already know, but the ethics committee is meeting tomorrow to, we're kind of looking into providing recommendations for possible changes or update to the ethics code. And that's from direction that the board gave, I think, back in January, although they wanted it to happen in, after April. So yeah, I'm not sure what the time frame is for it, since we've never done that before. I don't know how long that process will be. But if we get to the point of having specific recommendations or a draft, you'll definitely get it. So I just want to let you know, so you're not surprised, because there are some new trustees since we last discussed the ethics code at the village board level earlier this year. So.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other business, I'd entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thumbs
All
up.
right, meeting adjourned.
Thumbs up.
Night.
Good night.